I'd like to welcome everyone during the closed session and reconvene into our open session for today's March 10th, 2025 regular meeting of the Board of Trustees. And I will share the action taken in closed session for resolution number 2517. The board took action in closed session tonight by unanimous vote to release temporary certificated employees of the district for the 25-26 school year. And now we'll move on to our Pledge of Allegiance, and we'd like to invite our Wagner Ranch students to lead the group in the Pledge of Allegiance. All set? All right. Okay. Pledge of Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. All right, thank you. And with that, I'll turn it over to Sarah.
Hi, good evening, board members. We have a special presentation this evening from our Wagner Ranch Elementary first grade students who are going to talk about some learning they've been doing in honor of Black History Month. I will not steal any of their thunder and hand it over to our amazing first grade team and Mr. Acosta-Papraskis to lead us. Thank you.
Good evening, Superintendent Glimmy, trustees, community. It's great to be with you tonight. We're so very pleased and honored to present our Wagner Ranch Elementary School. Very, very grateful for the invitation to present to this board. Certainly, we have been doing great scholarship around Black History Month, and our fabulous first grade teacher team mentioned this wonderful area of scholarship that they pursue around the community of Gee's Bend, Alabama. Our students are going to tell you everything about that. But I do want to give a nod to our wonderful teaching staff. We have Shauna Yeager, Vanessa Lamra, Dale Wakamitsu, and Liz Headley. And we just really appreciate their amazing leadership and guidance of our students. Please enjoy the presentation and we turn it over to our amazing first graders from Wagner Ranch.
Yeah.
I'm going to try to give you the nod from the
Yeah. Please.
Hello, my name is Liz. In celebration of Black History Month, the first graders at Wagner Ranch learned about the community of Gee's Bend in Alabama. And celebrated their closure. Tonight we are going to share what we learned. We read books, watched videos, and listened to a presentation. We did some opinion writing, and we also learned about Martin Luther King Jr. that my friend Asher will be talking about later in this presentation. Finally, we created an all first grade quiz that we will show you this evening. Hello, my name is Max. This is a map. Oh, sorry. Hello, my name is Max. This is a map of the town of Boykin, Alabama. It's nicknamed Gee's Bend because Joseph G had a plantation here, and it's right in the bend of the Alabama River. The river surrounds Gee's Bend on three sides.
G. Ben was named for Joseph G., who brought slaves from North Carolina to this area to work on his cotton plantation in 1819. After emancipation in 1863, many of the slaves stayed in the area and became sharecroppers.
The people in East Bend were poor. They lived in houses with their roots. Before, people used stuffing old fabrics and old clothes to make. They made clothes together at night since they worked during the day. Cheese vendors were things of community. They gathered together. Dr. Martin Luther King Jr. visited the community of Cheeseburg several times. Some people of the community also marched with him. Dr. King admired the people of Cheeseburg. In 1965, Dr. King spoke at a church in Cheeseburg. He wanted to help because the people were fighting for the right to vote. Some people were making it difficult for them. He told them that they were somebody and they were important. When Dr. King died, G's then sent two of their leaders named Bell and Ada to pull his funeral wagon to the processions.
Sorry, one second, I'll leave first. So the town of Boykin is across the river in the town called Camden, which is where the county seat is. And when Black people were given the right to vote, a ton of G vendors took that ferry, which is in yellow, across the river to register in Camden. The government recognized how many people from this community were voting, registered to vote. They didn't like that, and they actually took the ferry away, which left the G vendors with the only option of walking that white line, which is 50 miles, all the way around to Camden in order to vote. And we had our students write some opinion pieces on what did they think about this. So Savio, your opinion.
People of Cheese Bend wrote 50 miles to Canyon to register to vote or forget about it. In my opinion, when the people of Cheese Bend should walk 50 miles to Camden to register to vote because it shows perseverance. Also, if they don't vote, the laws will never change.
Savio also has a piece of opinion writing.
So you guys are like different. Oh, well. I like that. Right different. If you walk me, you'll have no money for food. Also, I don't think it's fair for the African American. Also, I think there should be changes missing. Oh!
Shay has one more piece of writing for us.
In my opinion, the people of Cheese Bend should walk 50 miles to vote because it is their dream is to vote, and all that walking is worth to vote.
Okay. More? Okay. Is this one?
So, in 1966, during the Civil Rights Movement, the Freedom Quilting Bee was established to allow African American women from Gee's Bend and a nearby town of Rehoboth to gain some economic independence. So the quilts then went to auction in Manhattan, and during that time, they gained some attention from the art world. And a major turning point was an exhibition in 2002 at the Museum of Fine Arts in Houston called The Quilts of Gee's Bend. The exhibition then traveled to Whitney Museum in New York and 12 towns in the United States. And this got the Gee's Bend quilters noted as some very important folk art in America. So in 2018, Michelle Obama commissioned artist Amy Sherrill to paint her official portrait. In the portrait, she wore a dress with geometric designs, very much like the quilts in Gee's Bend. And the artist, Miss Sherrill, said the dress reminded her of two things, the Dutch painter Piet Mondrian and the quilts of Gee's Bend. And she felt that the dress echoed the tradition of Gee's Bend to compose quilts that transform clothes and fabric into masterpieces. So our students this evening will now share their first grade masterpiece.
Do I go to the next one or no? We're in show. Oh, okay.
Slavia, do you want to talk about it first? Yeah, go ahead and keep it up.
Oh, I need something. Our classes were together to make one giant book. Each so you have one book square and two small pieces of colored paper to start. We cut the smaller pieces and move them off like clips so you can draw. Hi, my name is Leia. We needed my paper and paper, so we shared our stuff and traded for what we needed. We even traded stuff and that people for doing and be a team.
I would like to share our first grade book with you.
Oh, wow. Beautiful.
You want to go point those out?
Any chance you all can turn this way?
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much.
And that way the camera can see you as well. Oh, keep going. Oh, wow.
What is my clue?
All right, guys, can you maybe,
Estimate this one.
Okay, you have one more thing to share with us, right? What's wrong with?
Hello, my name is Faye. When we learned about G-type cultures, I remembered I had made my own. I decided to add more to it. I drew on my quiz and go to class that had into it. Then I brought it into class to share. We enjoyed sharing our learning with you. We had fun learning all about these things. I hope you did too. Do you have any questions?
Well, first of all, yeah. Board members?
You guys did a remarkable job, and I love that it's about a topic that I've never heard of GFAN, so this is great to learn something new. And I'm just curious, is this going to be displayed somewhere at school? Oh, great.
Yes. We're gonna put it up in our gym.
Okay.
So that everybody can enjoy.
Yeah, it's beautiful. That was gonna be my question. too. I wish I knew how to quilt so I could make it.
I'm curious for the kids,
This one.
when you guys were working on your squares, when each of you were working on your squares, did you think it was gonna turn out looking this cool?
Yes.
Yeah. You guys had the big picture in mind at the start. It's amazing.
Who helped with the placement of all the different squares? Did you all do that collectively or was that the teachers? Wow.
Care with all of our.
Yeah, beautiful.
Sorry. Someone else is going to share? Okay. It's just gorgeous. First of all, your final product's amazing. Vanina, I didn't know this history and I really appreciate you sharing that with me and all of us here. It's really awesome. And I love how you did some history and you did some writing with that and some artwork and you did a lot of learning all together. Was there a particular part of this unit that you enjoyed the most? And why? Did you like the writing, the art, the history lessons? I had a feeling that was the answer. Yeah. How did you decide how to do your squares? Because they're all so individual. Did you go in with a plan or did you kind of go for it and see what happened? Go ahead.
We kind of did like pieces and we all pick our different colors by doing different designs. Because Jay's and culture, their colors are supposed to be not exactly like the real design.
Thank you.
I'll share something about my goals where I just did something random and then just reminded me of something.
Well, I just have to say it is quite spectacular, and thank you for sharing about the history. Your speeches were amazing, and this is just quite beautiful. So thank you, and thanks to your teachers. Lovely, and thank you for teaching this history.
Yes. Thank you so much. Really appreciate it.
You want a picture? Yeah, let's do a picture. Does every, do you mind bringing our students back up here to do a picture? First, I gotta come up here and take a picture. You guys like kind of scooted like Savio.
I just heard my dad's phone ring.
Goodness. I know, it might be. Yeah.
We are now at our public comment period. At a regular board meeting of the Board of Trustees, the public may comment on items within the subject matter jurisdiction of the governing board. For items on the agenda, the public may comment at the time the board considers the agenda item. For items not on the agenda, the public may comment under item 6A, public comment. The Board of Trustees requests that individuals who would like to address the Board of Trustees on an item do so by filling out a request to address the OUSD school board card and turning it into the superintendent prior to the agenda item. Cards are available at the meeting. Comments are limited to not more than 3 minutes. Groups are asked to limit their comments to a total of 5 minutes. The board shall limit the total time of public comment to 20 minutes. To comply with the Brown Act, the board may listen to comments from the speakers, but can neither discuss nor take action on the issues presented. Is there any public comment?
We have 2 public comments. We have Mr. Danziger and then Ms. Barrett, if you can be ready to go right after, that'd be great.
Hello, President Colin Coleman and members of the board, Steve Danziger. I'm a member of the board of directors of the WAC, the Orinda. Wish I didn't have to be here again. This month marks 2 years that the nature area has been closed. I've attended a lot of your meetings. I sat through presentations. I read all the material. I keep hearing board members say they support the nature area. They want to see it open. The superintendent also in the presentation last month talked about the nature area, wants to see it open. They don't want to sell the property, but they're still waiting for some action. We have volunteers ready to get in there. I know there's an issue with the greenhouse being unsafe. We're willing, Kathy's going to talk more about that proposal we'd like to make. But I would really like to see some support, some action from the board members who keep saying they support the nature area, but nothing seems to be happening. It seems to be stalled. We keep waiting for some positive news. There's still the state grant of $1.5 million out there. We don't really know what the status of it is. I know you're working on negotiations, but that's been going on now for a very long time, over a year. So I'm just here to say, please, all these students that were here today, they're missing out on an amazing opportunity. We have countless students who have written statements to you telling you that it was the most important and meaningful experience of their entire elementary school experience here in Orinda. So please, if maybe we can put it on the agenda again. We could really talk about it next month, but we'd like to see some action. Thank you.
Thank you.
Good evening, Board of Trustees, staff, Superintendent Gloomy, and Stuart Watson. Sorry about that slip. I'm Kathy Barrett. I'm co-president of Friends of Orinda Nature Area, FONA, and we're here tonight to offer support for the removal of the greenhouse. I want to tell you about that greenhouse. It was put up in the 1990s by donations from the garden clubs, from the Crespi family, because Cynthia was dying of cancer, and from many others. And it was approved by Ed Silvis, and it had all of the requirements to go forth. And it began serving thousands of kids who learned how to plant seeds and do slips and all kinds of fun things. Now it's very old. It definitely needs a makeover. And in 2020, we recognized that and started to raise funds to replace it. So we would like to work with you, as Steve mentioned. We're depressed that 2 years later, we still can't let the youth citizen science students in to finish their experiments, which they started last October. And you've heard some of them talk to you about that. And I think one, she's on our board, and she's a citizen scientist. And I have a testimonial from Tess Morrissey, one of our board members in citizen science, of how important it is to them. If we can just get them in April, May, and June, they will be able to complete their experiments that they've spent over half a year on. And we would like to help you get kids or whatever. We get help with volunteer adults and Rotary groups and what have you. We'll look at funding, seek that through FONA. But if we could get that greenhouse down in March, then there's been enough rain, the kids can go ahead and finish their chemistry tests on the soil and their seeds and everything else. So that's why I'm here tonight. I think the Orinda community expects some forward motion. It's not just us at FONA. We've been around since the 1990s. And in 2002, the National Wildlife Federation came out here and awarded Frank Bernetti, on behalf of all the schools in Orinda, the first ever national award for a school district that had a garden, a biodiversity garden in every single school, plus a nature area. And so that's a legacy that we are going to stick with it. We're not going away. We want to work in partnership with this, but we're really getting anxious about this little plot of land that's going to go without its citizen scientists. Thank you for listening to me tonight, and I'd like to leave you with a folder. It has my request, and it has the testimonies and testimonials with it. Thank you very much.
Thank you, Kathy. Thank you. All right, moving on to our action items. Action items 7, 8 through 8. Going to turn it over to Aida first to present.
So the first, we have a resolution, March resolution. We have a women's history resolution that we would like a that we're recommending to the board. Would actually like the board to read this resolution. Not very long, but we know our teachers do a great job with read alouds. Actually, last month was our Black History Month, and we just did a fantastic presentation around Black history. So I know our teachers do read alouds, they do projects, they embed it in the curriculum throughout the month of March. We also have a group of staff members under leadership of Sarah, actually working on development of resources for each month that we can launch next year as well. So for the month of March, we present the resolution, Women's Month.
Great, thank you. Benita, would you like to start?
Whereas women of every race and ethnic background have contributed and continue to contribute to our country's triumphs and accomplishments in countless ways, and
whereas women have played and continue to play critical roles in the economic, cultural, and social spheres of our nation's life by constituting a significant portion of the labor force working in and outside the home, and
whereas women have played a unique role throughout our history by providing the majority of the nation's volunteer labor force, and have been particularly important in the establishment of early charitable, philanthropic, and cultural institutions in the country. And
whereas women of diverse backgrounds have served as leaders in the forefront of progressive social change, not only to secure their own right of suffrage and equal opportunity, but also to abolish slavery, promote fairness, equality, and safety in the workplace, and advance the modern civil rights movement. And
whereas the role of women in history has been overlooked and undervalued in the past, through its significance is now emerging and assuming its rightful place as an important part of the body of American and world history.
now therefore be it resolved that the Orinda Union School District Board of Trustees proclaims the month of March as Women's History Month and encourage all OUSD classrooms to commemorate this time with appropriate instructional activities and cultural events.
Thank you so much.
Thank you for bringing this very important resolution. And so this is on for action. Do we have any discussion before we move to?
just thank you for bringing it.
All right. Can I have a motion, please?
Hillary, I move that the board approve resolution 25-18, recognizing Women's History Month.
This is Katie, I second. Trustee Anantavant? Aye. Trustee Weiner? Aye. Trustee Phillips?
Aye.
Vice President Shogun? Aye. President Collins-Woolman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you.
Thank you. Then we have another resolution, and we won't have you read through this one, but I did want to ask. So we're bringing this resolution in support of our partners in Acalanes Union High School District. As we all know, we're one of the lowest funded school districts in the state, and we rely heavily on our local funding, be it the parcel tax or our fundraising through our parent clubs, and so do our partners. So they are the lowest funded high school district in the state, and they too rely on local funding to make sure that they maintain their excellent programming. So they have proposed Measure T to offset some of their decline or depreciated current parcel tax funding. Their parcel tax currently is not able to maintain the programming that they already offer. So this will offset some of that. So this is to maintain their excellence in programming, their 7th period day, they're offering in electives and all of those phenomenal things that they have at the high school that makes them the high school district that they are. So we would love to show our support as they have shown ours, their support by supporting this parcel tax resolution. And it's for a special board election. Special election.
Board members would like to, this item is on for action, so we can discuss before we go to vote. Any comments?
No, I just would say, I know Liz Doust, our former board member, is kind of, heading up some of the efforts to, gain support on this. And I individually have already offered my support for this. I think it's necessary given the way our funding is in the state of California to support this.
Likewise, I've supported it personally as well. And given that we're a K-8 district and they're a 9-12, it's kind of all one. Not most of our children are headed in that direction. So I think it's important to make sure we're financially supporting each other, which I know they supported our parcel tax a couple years ago as well.
Anyone else? I've also endorsed it, and a big thank you to Liz for heralding that effort for Measure T. With that, do we have a motion?
This is Hillary. I move that the board pass and adopt resolution number 25-19 in support of AUHSD's Measure T parcel tax.
This is Benita, I second.
Trustee Phillips? Aye. Trustee Anantha? Yes. Medina?
Aye.
Vice President Shokin?
Aye.
President Williams Coleman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item 7C.
We have two resolutions that have to do with the reductions this evening. So I'm going to go ahead and present on, I'll start with this resolution, and then Dr. Inglesby will jump in, and then he'll present on the other one. Unfortunately, these are not the resolutions that we like to bring to the board. These are really challenging and making it some of the challenging things that we actually do in this profession. This is not why we get into this profession. This is not why we do these jobs, and I'm sure this is not why you became board members to have these resolutions here. And I know there's a lot of interest in our audience tonight about what we have to say here about this. So I just have to say, to the board and to those that are watching right now, these are really hard decisions and really hard recommendations to make. So what we'll talk about is, what we are talking about is consideration of staff reductions and why are we bringing this to the board? What does that actually mean? We'll review the enrollment trends and staffing with regards to that are driving these reductions. What does it actually mean when we're talking about particular kinds of services or PKS process? And what does that process entail? And what is the potential impact on schools and our students? And the next steps in the timeline. And then we'll actually go through the resolution. So please interrupt me with any questions that you might have. And I know we have public comment after the presentation or whenever the board's ready to take it. So why are the staff reductions being considered? It really comes down to the enrollment. We have experienced decline in enrollment at OIS, the Orinda Intermediate School. And that decline in enrollment has resulted in that school being overstaffed. So that really, there is no program reductions with regards to us determining that we have a fiscal crisis of why we're making programmatic challenges like we see some other districts making. So it really is that enrollment drives staffing, and that's why we're here. We do have budgetary constraints. I mean, we just supported a resolution supporting our partner districts. We've done the same things. We will be in here probably doing that in a few years. But it is, districts are funded in California based on enrollment. The number of students that attend classes is what drives finances. It's how we get paid, how we bring in the revenue. So our district continues to be one of the lowest funded districts in the state. I think last time when we ran the numbers, we were 5th from the bottom out of the 1,000. And our ADA is what drives those revenues. So when the enrollment is not there, that affects how much money or how much revenue is coming in. So the enrollment should reflect the FTE or full-time equivalency when it comes to funding. And then efficiency and sustainability. Staffing is adjusted to match student enrollment. That is traditionally done all the time, annually. When the enrollment goes up, we increase the staffing. When the enrollment goes down, we decrease the staffing. Usually in the districts, that is done every year this month. So failing to align staffing with enrollment will lead to increased fiscal challenges. We do see districts surrounding us. You cannot miss it on the news this time of the year that there are school closures There are really dramatic cuts due to really dramatic fiscal situations. And a lot of times that is due to not taking constant actions to align staffing and enrollment. We are in people business. Most of our budget goes to staff, and that's where the funding is. I mean, that's where it is. So should we not do something annually? Should we not adjust our staffing with enrollment? We are going to be doing substantial budget reductions down the line, which will affect programming as well. When we look at the enrollment trends and staffing, overall, the district enrollment is not down. And that is mainly because of elementary schools. And that is because of the TK, universal TK addition. So if we're really just looking at the dark bar graph, that line is going up. Our overall enrollment is going up. So really the decrease in enrollment around OIS can actually sort of almost hide a little bit because our overall enrollment is not decreasing. But when we are looking at the enrollment, historical enrollment and projections for OIS, there is a decrease. And if we're looking at between 15, 16 and currently, there's a loss of about 60 students. And while that may not seem that much, that is actually hundreds of thousands of dollars a year. So we do actually need to consider that that is a significant impact to our budget. And it will be a really even more significant impact should we carry that on.
Yeah, quick question here. Just looking at the way the numbers fall off in 21, 22, how much of the change of this year, roughly 60 over the years, do we think is due to COVID and then students choosing other plans or just general demographic?
When we look at the demographics, it does not have to do with that. We have a high retention of students that are supposed to go, meaning they're not going to private schools. We are retaining the students at a higher level than other.
This is just more a demographic way.
It really is a demographic.
Correct.
Correct.
It does happen.
Yeah. Yes.
That was actually in our demographic,
Yes.
the report. That we
Yes. We asked them to do that specific study for us is because there is a perception out there or misperception.
And the numbers would make it very easy to think.
Correct. That students leave because of the private schools. This is not an OIS issue. This is a cohort issue. This is an Orinda. It's not cheap to live here. And houses don't turn over. So this is something that Connie is dealing with. This is as well. So it's a cohort issue as we go through. So I just mentioned district-wide enrollment is projected to increase in coming years. But that is elementary schools are increasing enrollment due to addition of universal TK. So we have added an entire grade level at elementary school, which is really full implementation this next school year. But OIS enrollment is experiencing slow decline. And while we are steady right now, we never right-sized initially. And we are further declining, is projected in the next 5 years. And again, just to that point, it is a size of the cohort. It isn't due to any other factors out there that have to do with the middle school or OIS or USD or anything like that. So enrollment trends and staffing needs, staffing ratios, and how do we determine that? Staffing needs are determined based on our class size ratios. And those class size ratios are bargained. We have a contract and that's what we follow. Our class size ratio is average of 26 per teacher, not to exceed 28 in any one of the classes. That's for the OIS. And that's how we staff. It's 40 for the PE classes. And I just want to make sure that 26 or 28 does not apply for our performing arts. You make a band, what you need for the band class, right? So really, that is our staffing. That's how we staff. So we are not proposing increases in class size ratio. We are not proposing increases in maximums here. The class sizes at OIS will be determined based on the current and prior ratios that we are supposed to be staffed at. And we will still remain by far the lowest in the county for the middle school. So we have already run those numbers for next year. So how that process works is we evaluate the needs based on student enrollment. It is a little different at a middle school than it is at the elementary schools. And this is the challenge in Orinda, is that we have one middle school. We don't have 4 middle schools to rotate around. We have one middle school, so it's very personal because it's one middle school, and it's very visible. It's just OIS. When there is not enough enrollment at one of the elementary schools and we need to shift staffing around, we simply just shift them within the district, and that's shifted to another elementary school. But because we only have one middle school, it's right there in front of us, right? So it makes it seem like it's just all about OIS. But the credentials are different too, for the most part. And it's a secondary, so that's why it's a particular kind of service. There's a very specific credential that you need to teach in a certain area. In elementary school, it's a multiple subject credential. You teach all of the subjects, with the exception of the PE and the specialists like art. But in the secondary, middle schools and high schools, it's a particular kind of credential leading to a particular kind of service reduction. So what happens early on, January, February, our students sign up for classes, and those signups drive the numbers. So we start looking at what did the students sign up for. You know, we have general enrollment, everybody takes core, everybody takes math, takes science, those classes, and then we start looking at the electives, what do they sign up for? And it's based on this enrollment really drives what we offer and then what staffing we need for those offerings. We have our students select their alternates, their second choices, and then we start moving them around so that we can make sure that everything's filled appropriately. So when we have something that's overstaffed and we just don't have enough students, we identify those positions for reductions. We are currently, we have not eliminated any courses, reduced of a number of sections, yes, but not courses, meaning students have the same course offerings and the same programs. And then district ensures that we always make sure that we follow all the ed code, all the bargaining agreements, all the tenure laws, and then all the notifications as we go through the process. So what's the potential impact? As I mentioned, all programs and courses will continue to be offered. Our students will be able to take all programs available to them, as those reductions are not offering course, not affecting course offerings. All classes will maintain the OIS average class size or fewer. Yes, some departments may experience an increase in class size because they're currently under-enrolled. If we didn't have overstaffing or under-enrollment, we wouldn't be here. But because they're currently under-enrolled, they're below the average, some of them significantly. So yes, those will go up, but not above what we have an agreement for. It is our intent, it's our value that to make all attempts to employ all current staff members and avoid layoffs where possible. Meaning just because it's a reduction in position does not mean that that is equal to number of people that are being reduced. We examine credentials, we examine other availabilities within a district. We still are looking at our enrollments as they're coming in. We are always looking at it through the lens of how can we avoid the layoffs of people. So in our resolution itself, there are districts that go into layoffs or reductions, and just, it's a wide range of, we're just going to reduce in every possible area. We are doing it, what I would call it surgically, meaning by enrollment, making sure that we're not over reducing and then we're not over laying off. So those are proposed reductions to go down to being appropriately staffed. I will note that last year we did already some, and I think there was some core reductions, math. They didn't necessarily result in a layoff. Some of them was due to attrition and so on. We had like through TOSAs, all sorts of ways to do it. So next steps, this item is up for action. Last month, we brought it up for discussion, preliminary, so for full transparency of what's going on. We actually were able to reduce the number from last month to this month in further examining our enrollment, trying to figure out, because that's always the way, is how can we reduce this number to the lowest possible? So, but we are recommending, and it's hard to say because we don't want to recommend it, but that is what we're doing, is particular kinds of services for the board to make that action. If this is a first of the notices, right, if it's approved, our employees will be notified either of reassignments or layoffs, and they have to be notified by March 15th. So then we would be going through the ongoing staffing adjustments moving forward. Sometimes there's increases in enrollment and so on. We'd be looking through the master schedule. But the final notice around the layoff this is the notice of any affected employees is by May 15th. So that's the process. And then we do have the actual resolution attached in front of the board, which is the same wording that was at the last meeting, with the exception of the FTE total, which we have been able to reduce the FTE in PE and science since the last meeting, based on the numbers that we've calculated. Happy to answer any questions. And Brian, did I miss anything? Okay. All right. Board members?
And I don't have any specific, I'll start because I don't have any specific questions. I do know that we talked about this last month, and I feel like there's been ongoing conversations about it throughout the last month. I mean, as a board member, this is one of the hardest things that we have to do. But I just would like to just comment that I appreciate how thoughtful you all have been in terms of really evaluating the need for these reductions and even reducing it from what was presented last month. And just knowing that, ongoing, that, there's still the potential that it won't even result in the number that we potentially are approving tonight. So just kind of my general thoughts.
Likewise, I don't have any questions because this was up for discussion last month. And then, like Philip said, had a month of continual conversation around it, or information rather about it. And I said last month, but I wouldn't say it again. I know we have a lot of people here tonight. None of us take this action item lightly at all. And I know there are people behind the decision that's in front of us. I don't take that lightly at all. I think there's a few things that I want to say are helpful to have in making a decision. Number one, that programming is remaining the same. I would acknowledge that having more kids in a class is challenging for both teachers, and also not, it's better to have smaller class sizes, but we're not, we do have the lowest in the county, and we're not going over them in any way at OAS with the changes that are in front of us. And then lastly, that I do appreciate that it was done really surgically and not just a wipeout and see what happens next. So I think those are mostly my comments. See if I had anything else. I think the last thing is as a board member, one of our responsibilities is fiscal responsibility, kind of at the top of our list when we came into office. And that's not to make a lesser program offer at all, by no means. But in the graph that you showed with 2015, 16, whatever it was to now, there has been a decline at OAS that for the most part looks like it will remain the same several years out. And I think that should be adjusted for. It should have probably been adjusted in the last 10 plus years, but it should be adjusted for. That's my take on that.
Yeah, I will, basically agree with all the things that have been said. And just add to that, my thanks to the staff for what is a very complex jigsaw puzzle of trying to figure out the way to handle what is unfortunately the situation that we're in, but in the ways that does try to minimize that human aspect of it to the best that we can do. So.
All I can say, I echo the same sentiments that the other board members share. I also appreciate the time and consideration that you've put into this and the recommendations and being fiscally responsible, because especially seeing what is going around with our neighbors and still maintaining the integrity of why we are part of this district and why we've moved here and why we are part of this community. So thank you.
Thank you. I agree. This is never easy. It involves difficult decisions about real people's lives. And so taking all that into consideration, appreciate the detail in which you've taken this. So thank you for that. Is there public comment?
There are public comments. So we have several. So I'm gonna, if it's okay, I'll just say a couple names and then who's it next, if that's all right. So we have Lisa Rudolph, and then we'll have Catherine Palmer Collins after that, and Marshall Sachs on deck. Okay.
You know, we're going to stand up behind our speakers. Whoever feels comfortable standing up, so we can be able to get.
So, ready? Okay.
Board of Trustees and District Office Administration, thank you for your time. I have two main topics I want to talk about, and I already sent a letter to you. There's two things that I'd like to reiterate and expand upon. First of all, I sent you some numbers about the projected over the last 3 years. The numbers that were just shared up there are different. I don't know why they're different, but they're different. This year we have 825. We're already projected to have more next year, even more the next year, and up to 866 in 2 years. So in my opinion, cutting staff right now, when in the next couple of years, we already see the bubble coming, it's a little short-sighted, and I worry that we're going to lose some awesome teachers and then have to rehire staff back and roll the dice on what we're going to get. The second thing I'd like to address is you invest a lot of money in PLC work, some wonderful PLC work, and you saw last meeting, well, we all agreed we want more time. And one thing that Dr. Cruz reiterates time after time during our meetings is how often PLC should meet. And he said that we should meet 45 minutes every week as a teacher team. And it's even on page 54 out of 307 pages of our book. That's how important it is. It's in the beginning of our book, because everything that's here is all based on teachers having 45 minutes every week. When the math department only has 5 teachers, we're splitting. And I have never met with either of my teachers for 45 minutes every week. And the PLC work cannot be done to fidelity. And it's really unfortunate that there are things that are difficult to do when there aren't 6 teachers in the department. And now that's going to happen in science as well. So I appreciate you being thoughtful about this decision. And when we talk about impacts, let's remember that it's not just the impacts that were listed on there. There are other impacts that will.
I'm Catherine Palmer Collins, 6th grade core teacher. And looking around this room, I think that I've been here longer than anyone in the district. I've certainly been here longer than anyone up here. And so please indulge my longevity here. Beware the Ides of March, or I prophesy that you will live to regret it. When you let go of staff, you don't get them back. And it does affect program, and it does affect the integrity of our district. Thank you.
Hold 1 second. Hold on, Marshall. We have Charles Shannon after that, and then Anna Gunn, and then Susie Kish. Sorry, go ahead.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Marshall Sachs. I'm a science teacher at OIS. Thank you for the work already in reducing the cuts at OIS. We appreciate that, because the initial proposal, and we appreciate the commitment to keeping the 26 average class sizes, because the initial proposal made that impossible to do. And now there's only a few. There's still actually, at least in science. That being said, I hope we can still do better for students. One point that comes up every time we talk about cuts is the number of programs we offer, which is important. But while that's true, it can't be the only metric to evaluate our success, what we're doing. We teach people, not programs, like you said, and it will affect the quality of our ability to really engage and teach all students at a high level. I already shared the cuts to the science department, the impacts, I'll be brief there. But having to split time between grades will decrease the frequency of lab work, field work, experiences, project-based learning, just out of necessity. Lisa already mentioned, so I won't repeat about PLC, but that is a big point. It's already so hard, but so worthwhile to have those meetings. I get them talking about it because I'm passionate about it. But to have those meetings to really plan, okay, next week, here's what we can do. Here's the students that are struggling. Here's what we can do. We're struggling but doing well right now. I don't know how I'm going to do that, with two different teams splitting that time. And while I really think we can do better than these cuts at all, it just seems like a cruel time to do it. We know, at least in the science department, we will have the retirement of the next year. And to risk losing a teacher that after searching and searching for years, someone that wants to stay, to lose that, who has this experience. Again, we don't know if that will happen, but that is the worst outcome because we don't know how things are going to be, are going to be arranged. I also want to focus back on art. I know I talked about that last year, but a 1 point reduction to art almost inevitably means the loss of one of our best teachers, Sean Ferguson. Again, I said this last year, but it's still true. He is probably one of the most loved people on staff for his students. Teaching next door to him, I frequently walk into that classroom, and I know we'll still have art classes, but we're going to lose some of our most vulnerable students, struggling in many, if not all, of their classes. You walk in there, they're 100% engaged. It's the time when they are happy. They're learning in community. Post-pandemic, that means a lot when the new pandemic is mental health and school refusal. Kids go to school for that. We're not a school in decline. It's a matter of just deciding on our shared priorities and values. Our enrollment, while small, actually is increasing next year. I've had 5 new students just this year in the last couple months. The numbers we saw on the slide today, originally in January, showed 809 for next year. That's already gone up by almost 20-something students, 233, and the rest of the projection doesn't reflect that. So we actually are, at least over the next few years, increasing, and if there's no need to make these cuts right now, is what I should say. Thank you very much for your time.
Charles Shannon.
I wanted to ask, how much time do we have for speaking? Do we get to 15 minutes or?
No, I'm giving 3 minutes.
Because I would let somebody else go to my place.
No.
Okay. So good evening, members of the governing board, Superintendent Glimmy, and members of the community. On behalf of the Orinda Education Association, I stand before you tonight to express our deep concern regarding the proposed reduction of over 2 FTE, specifically impacting our valued arts, physical education, science, and world language program at Orinda Intermediate School. While we understand the district's financial considerations and reaffirm our commitment to collaborative solutions, we must express our deep concern regarding the proposed staff reductions. These reductions will significantly impact our valued members and have implications for our students. They create uncertainty and instability for our dedicated educators whose expertise and commitment are vital to our schools. We recognize that these staffing changes may necessitate adjustments to the learning environment and place increased demands on our educators and could have a negative impact on our students. Therefore, we respectfully urge the board to carefully consider the long-term consequences for all involved. Let me be clear, OEA will vigorously defend the rights of our members. We will ensure that the district adheres to all contractual and legal obligations. We'll provide our members with the necessary support and resources during this challenging time. We urge you, members of the board, to carefully reconsider this resolution with full awareness of its potential implications for our students, as you have heard from previous speakers and our educators. We insist that you protect our high-quality educational program and keep cuts as far away from students and classrooms as possible. Thank you.
Anna Gunn and then Susie Fish.
Anna Gunn, department head for OXPE. I can talk in front of 40 kids, but get me in front of 12 adults and I freak out, so. While we appreciate the change in the PE department cut, a 0.3 reduction still leaves our class sizes at maximum capacity, allowing little to no flexibility for schedule changes. If just one more student is added to 8th grade, an additional section will be required. Currently, if a student needs a schedule change for any reason, per our registrar's numbers, there is no available space to accommodate them. Class sizes at capacity do not align with our mission statement or the PLT work that we have been dedicated to for the last 2 years. In 2023, Measure Z, which was approved by Orinda residents, including those who elected our board members, explicitly prioritized retaining highly qualified teachers and maintaining smaller class sizes. While the PE maximum is 40 students, keeping class sizes in the mid to upper 30s allows for transfer students, necessary schedule changes, and a safer, more engaging learning environment. Our department is committed to continued success of this program, and a reduction in staffing puts us at risk. In past years, with a drop in enrollment, OIS has been able to maintain locker room supervision, lunchtime sports, which hundreds of students participate in every week, after-school athletics, a high-quality program unlike any other area, by shifting a PE teacher to teach a section or two of an elective or other subject, and therefore retain our highly qualified PE staff. We cannot lose our highly qualified teachers for a short-sighted reduction, only to have to go through the hiring process again next year. Thank you for your consideration, your support, and maintaining our excellence in the PE department.
Good evening, OUSD board members and staff. My name is Susie Kish. I'm currently in my 29th year of teaching at Orinda Intermediate School. I feel incredibly fortunate to have been part of the Bulldog family for so long, surrounded by colleagues who are deeply committed to providing the best education for our exceptional students. We are truly a family. We support one another, collaborate effectively, share complementary goals and educational philosophies, and genuinely enjoy each other's company. In my nearly 3 decades with the Orinda Union School District, I've witnessed many teachers come and go. What concerns me most, however, is the departure of some of our best educators. Some have left due to the high cost of living in the Bay Area, while others have been let go despite being exemplary teachers. The reasons cited for these layoffs, such as right sizing, often translate into larger class sizes. We all know that larger classes have a significant impact on students' education, making it more difficult for teachers to provide individualized attention and support. Additionally, the growing class sizes will make it harder to implement the differentiation and intervention strategies that the district has prioritized. Reducing the number of teachers means that fewer educators will be responsible for a wider range of subjects and students, creating challenges for collaboration and planning. This issue is already evident in math, and it could soon extend to science. Moreover, increasing class sizes directly contradicts the intent of the parcel tax, which was designed to support small class sizes. Our OAS registrar, Donna Chung, has shared as of Wednesday, March 5, that next year's projected enrollment numbers are as follows: 280 in 8th grade, 264 in 7th grade, 295 in 6th grade, with more students still being added. Overall, our school's enrollment is actually not decreasing next year and is expected to increase by 16 students the year after that and by 42 the following year. Cutting positions now could prove to be a short-sighted decision, especially when these roles may need to be reinstated in just a couple of years. I strongly urge you to reconsider the proposed cuts, as they will have a significant impact on our students, staff, and the dedicated teachers who have become such integral members of the OIS community. Thank you for your time and consideration. No more public.
Or
And this
is there
agenda.
any other discussion?
I think I said this last year and I'll say it again. This is, I mean, it's hugely emotional. I'm the most senior board member here. This is my 9th year on the board, and those numbers from 2015, 2016 is about a year before I started on the board. And I think the critical point that Superintendent Glimmy and Dr. Inglesby have made to me, which is why I do support this reduction in the sense that I think it's necessary, is that our enrollment, it may not be going down next year, but it has gone down a lot since 2015, 2016, and we have never done this kind of reduction before, at least not since my tenure on the board. This is not short-sighted. This is something that has been well thought out. It's not taken lightly. There are people behind this. I certainly don't want to lose any of our staff here, and I think our administrators here have really emphasized that they don't want to either. At least that's what I'm hearing, and doing everything possible to ensure that we do, retain our employees, even the staff that are listed on this resolution. There's not names, but the particular kinds of service for the employees that are affected by this. And I hear that from our staff, and I expect that to be the case, that they'll do the best they can to ensure that, we don't actually achieve this slightly over 2 point if we don't have to. So I will just again say this is tremendously challenging. This is not something that I want to be doing as a board member. It reminds me of certain things that we had to do during the COVID years that were exceptionally challenging as well. But as a sitting board member, it's my responsibility to look fiscally at the greater picture for our budget and what we need to be doing going forward. And I have to trust, the information that's presented to me here as a board member.
I think that's really well said, Hillary. So ditto to that. And similarly, I know there are people behind it, like I said, and I know all of us have in our own way, but I can say personally in the last month have asked a lot of questions and asked administration to provide information as much as I could before this meeting. And so again, it's not taken lightly at all. I do think this is something that most districts do look at annually, and enrollment does need to drive the staffing. And if it hasn't been done in a long time, then it's part of my responsibility as board member to make sure that's addressed when it's brought to us.
I think if this resolution is passed, the work doesn't stop there. The work is going to still continue. You're still going to be, as a team, working to figure things out to make, can you share, in particular about art, what the enrollment for next year is, or is that something we don't have?
We do have the enrollment. We just would, I think going into the particulars right now, we're still going through elective second choices, but we do not have the enrollment for the staffing right now. We have about 400 empty seats in our electives right now. If that makes sense.
Also, just reiterate that again, I think Hillary mentioned this, but the number 2.01 up there, to the extent possible, of course, I want to be able to keep staff in the district. And I know this is, as you put out on your slides, the first step of deciding what to do next, but certainly want to keep people and understand how exceptional the staff is at OAS and all of our schools. That's not lost on me.
Any other discussion?
I think it was said well in my comments, so.
I'm sorry.
I think it was said well in my
Yeah.
comments.
Thank you. This item is on for action, so we may have a motion.
I will make the motion. This is Hillary. I move that the board adopt resolution 25-14, reduction in particular kinds of services, certificated positions.
Susie, I'll second that.
Trustee Amantabat, Trustee Weiner, Trustee Phillips.
Aye.
Vice President Jogan.
Aye.
President Collins-Pullman.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. I know that was not easy, and what we'll do is just to what Vanita said, we'll knowing what the action was, we'll start our communications with various people and move forward with what this means. This week. Our next agenda item, I'm sorry, what's your job?
No, it's fine. Do we need to take a break or you want to push through? Okay, if we could take a 5-minute break, thank you.
This next item we reviewed last month, and it's not changed. And just to highlight, in accordance with California Education Code, the Board of Trustees determine the order of termination of certificated employees who first rendered paid service with the district on the same date, solely on the basis of needs of the district. And so we have presented tie-breaking criteria for employees with the same seniority date. And again, we presented this last month. We're looking at the number of teaching and/or specialist credentials as one criteria, 1 point each for valid teaching and/or specialist service credential held on file with the district and county office of ed. And then the second one is the earned degree beyond a bachelor's or BS level. So 1 point each for a master's degree on file with the district, as well as 2 points for a doctoral degree. This is a resolution to assist us with any tie-breaking criteria if employees were hired on the same exact date. Unfortunately, we don't do timestamps, but they may have the same personal action report approval.
Thank you. First of all, is there any public comment?
There's no public comment on this item.
Okay. For discussion,
No, I mean, we reviewed this last month.
Yeah.
I could have a motion, please.
This is Katie. I move that we approve resolution 2515, criteria for determining order of seniority for those certified employees with the same date of first paid service.
This is even second.
Trustee Anantavant. Aye. Trustee Wiener. Aye. Trustee Phillips.
Aye.
Vice President Shogun.
Aye.
President Collins Coleman.
Aye.
Motion carries.
Thank you. Moving on to item 7E. Ada.
Yes.
Or
It will
Dr.
actually be
Inglesby.
Dr. Inglesby.
Yeah.
Yes, I'll just put up the presentation.
Go through the slides.
Yes.
Thank you. This is another very difficult item, not a pleasant thing to have to present to you. Classified position layoff or reduction. And so we move here to the classified layoff reduction, overview of consideration of change in program needs and staff reductions, position overview of the proposed change, the layoff reduction process. I'll discuss the potential impact on schools and students, next steps in the timeline, and then what the resolution is actually stating. We did present this last month as a preliminary information. That has not changed. Consideration for of staff reductions. Why staff reductions are being considered? Purpose of this proposal is the district is in need of a board certified behavior analyst to provide comprehensive behavioral support. Currently, we do have a behavior specialist position that's part-time at 0.4. The position does not call for the BCBA or the board certified behavior analyst position. Currently, we're contracting out for a number of those types of assessments that we're in need of when it comes to students with IEPs. The reduction in the current behavior specialist position will allow for the district to create this more comprehensive position to address the district needs in the area of behavioral support for students with IEPs, 504s.
Speak up a little bit.
Sure. Enhancement of student support. The district aims to expand within the district services to reduce reliance on external agency contracts and strengthen financial stability. So we'd be collapsing the 0.4 position that's identified under behavior specialist position and having that encompass a part of the financial support for the board certified behavior analyst, which we're looking at a one-time or a full-time position in the district. Currently, we're contracting with at least 2 agencies for any type of BCBA or behavior analyst support that we need for students in the form of assessments, behavior plans, supervision of behavioral aides that implement the behavior plans, and we'd like to bring that in-house. There may be a need for some portion of it, but we aren't in a position to even do that within the house at this time. the costs for the contracts in the BCBA area are $200,000 to $300,000. And so we're looking to bring a physician in to eat into that large contract that involve a number of non-public agencies that we're currently working on. So the position overview and the proposed change, and this is the impact on our program students. Our current position overview, the behavior specialist, currently it's a 0.4 position, provides individual and group counseling services to students, focusing on social interaction and regulation. In terms of the behavioral support, the district relies heavily on external contracts to conduct functional behavioral assessments due to the lack of the in-house BCBA support. Our proposed changes that effective August 2025 for the caseload of the individualized or group counseling, I think it's primarily done in group at this time, would move to our district school psychologists who are credentialed and authorized to provide such services. A new BCBA position will be introduced and tasked with delivering comprehensive behavioral assessments and determining appropriate support strategies for teachers, special service assistants, classroom aides, and students. This shift will enhance the district's internal capacity to manage and support student behavior more efficiently and effectively. And again, that's a type of support that we have to contract out for. So the next steps, we're looking at board action to consider the 0.4 reduction. Staff has recommended the 0.4. Preliminary notice, if a resolution is approved, the affected employee will be notified to a layoff prior to March 15th of this week. And then ongoing staffing adjustments, potential adjustments can be made prior to the final notice, which would be by May 15th. It's a similar timeline for our certificated. Currently, our behavior specialist works with kids and students across the district, elementary to middle school. Students with IEPs are approximately 35 students, and as I counted at the 504 level, it may be 20 students. There's a handful of students who have both this group counseling as well as individual counseling with our psychologists, and it's about 15%. And so a student may have individual support and have group counseling support. We might want to, if the psychologist is doing it, we might want to look at that model. How can we have the time that kids are out of class receiving socio-emotional behavior regulation in a more efficient manner, perhaps combine those kind of services? Something to look at in the future. Services would stay the same through this year and then transition to the school psychologists beginning in August. The current students with IEPs, currently the IEPs all include psychologists as a provider to implement the goals that are already included in your student's IEP. Any questions?
Any public comment?
You will take public comment?
Yeah,
Sure. We have
take
two
public comment first and then.
Two public
some
comments.
discussion. Okay.
Yep. We have Blake McCall. Oh, sure. Heather McCall.
You want to support by standing behind. We don't represent these members, but if you'd like to stand behind, please join me.
We have Heather McCall first and then Blake McCall.
First of all, I want to start by thanking those who can't speak for me today, and for those in this room who wrote letters, and I appreciate your support, and thank you to the board for listening. Hello, I'm Heather McCall. I'm a licensed MFT and the behavior specialist for the district. For the past 20 years, I've served over 800 kids, supervised 15 MF interns, had exemplary performance reviews, recognition by the SELPA, and most importantly, seen the growth mentally and behaviorally of the special ed students I serve. I love this community. I have dedicated my life to serving our most vulnerable students and supporting our Orinda teaching staff. I am here today to represent those who need the behavior specialist service the most. This position is being eliminated due to lack of funds, lack of work, and there is a strong counter perspective to this statement. Let's address lack of work. My caseload is children with IEPs and 504s, and it has been increasing. It's at 40 now with the IEPs and then the 504s.
They are our most challenging SPED kids, and they all have IEPs with legal requirements for service, goals, and meetings. It takes a skilled provider with years of specialized training and expertise in the nuances of mental health, behavior, and SPED to handle the spiciness of multiple students with extreme challenges, the most challenging, in a group. Our 3 school sites are already at max capacity, bogged down in assessments and even contracting some of those out, with limited time for counseling as is. It's my groups. Wellness counselors also have impacted caseloads, which limit the ongoing support needed for SPED and lack knowledge in SPED protocols. The behavior and mental health needs of the district are growing, and behavior specialist is not the same as behavior analyst. As our current behavior analyst stated in the letter she sent you, we need both for comprehensive service. The new behavior analyst role is for creating behavior plans for students in their classroom. The behavior specialist role is to teach the evidence-based skills needed to make the behavior plan a success. In small, safe groups, students are challenged to explore emotions, behavior, and social skills not taught in the classroom. Research has demonstrated a driving force of behavior is mental health, and this is why the provider for the service on the IEP is not a BCBA, but an MFT, mental health intervention. In addition, I touched 60% of all the mental health cases in our district by supervising our 5 counselors on daily interventions and crisis situations. Even after licensure, it's best legal practice to have a senior therapist running clinical consultation groups. Let's talk lack of funds and cost. With the reduction of the 4 contract behavior analysts we currently hire, there are funds for the new in-house behavior analyst without needing to eliminate the behavior specialist. I am a classified Orinda employee paid according to the district pay scale, which is more cost efficient than contracting out at the going rate, a 55 minimum or increase for the district if you contract it out. The 40 IEP students still legally need service minutes, but all that an IEP requires. Keeping the behavior specialist position is the most cost-effective strategy for the district, allowing maximum service with reduced costs. The real lack of will be the loss of this position. It will increase cost and is a reduction in necessary services for our SPED students. It's a removal of a service that empirical data shows is essential for the growth of our SPED students' behavior and mental well-being, not only in the classroom, but in life. Eliminating this position will reduce 20 years of long-held expertise in the subject matter, as well as 20 years of trust and relationships with students, teachers, families, and the community. Immeasurable reductions. I am fighting for this position to remain, not just because I love the job I've done diligently for the past 20 years. I'm fighting for our families and community. Behavior specialist is an essential provider for SPED kids' success in the Orinda community. Thank you.
Thank you. Blake McCall.
This letter was sent to the board by last minute and with the request to be read tonight. Hi, ladies and gentlemen of the Orinda School Board. I'm writing to you today to voice my support for the continuation of Heather McCall's role in our elementary schools. My daughter has ADHD and suffers from severe emotional regulation deficits and lack of perspective-taking skills. My daughter had an extremely rough transition into elementary school. Her emotional dysregulation would result in meltdowns that looked like tantrums, multiple instances of trying to escape from the school campus, and at times becoming aggressive to other students and destructive to property. She could make new friends easily, but struggled to maintain her friendships. By the end of 2nd grade, she was becoming socially isolated and was having difficulty accessing her education due to her inability to regulate in a classroom setting. If you visit her at school today, you would have a hard time connecting the girl I just described with brain happy 4th graders you would observe. She has had many friends and understands how to be a good friend in return. She still has her struggles, but I no longer spend every school day worried about what might happen at school, and if I would receive a phone call letting me know what new level of emotional dysregulation may have reached that day. Ms. McCall began working with my daughter at the beginning of 2nd grade. She's taught her how to identify her emotional state, giving her the tools she can use to help return to an optimal emotional state. Taught her about perspective taking and how to decide if something is really a big problem, or maybe it's just a small problem, not a problem at all. Every teacher and therapist had worked with my daughter up to that point, struggled to get her to buy into an incentive system. Ms. McCall immediately had her excited to earn points and participate in the group. In other settings, my daughter would cover her ears, act uncomfortable, and use escape methods to avoid talking about social skills and emotional regulation strategies. Miss McCall has been able to get through to her from the beginning. Recently, my daughter stood on the stage in front of the whole school and calmly and courageously made it to the final rounds of the school spelling bee, regulating her emotional state the entire time. She now gets in my car and tells me things such as, I didn't like it when a group of girls did X, Y, Z, but I decided it wasn't really worth making a huge deal of it. I think much of this has to do with the social skills and emotional regulation education she is receiving in Heather McCall's group. I would like to ask the board how it is possible to consider eliminating a position like Heather McCall's in the midst of a teenage mental health crisis. Early intervention is the best time to help kids develop social skills. Children like my daughter, without the social skills and emotional regulation training, are at the highest risk of growing into isolated adolescents. Social intelligence is one of the major predictors of success in life, not reading levels in fourth grade or access to STEM labs. If we don't provide intervention to children with social skills and emotional regulation deficits early, what is the most effective, we will not be setting them up for success in school or the remainder of their lives. Please make sure the children of our district, like my daughter, who are the most at risk of becoming socially isolated from mental health conditions in adolescence, continue to receive social skills and emotional regulation support services they truly need from capable and talented therapists like Heather McCall.
Thank you. Okay, thank you. For discussion.
I'm gonna go first.
We're not eliminating any, like, students will still receive the same type service.
That's correct. Yes, our school psychologists are credentialed, trained to provide that very similar.
And they have
service.
the band, and they have the time.
Yep, I met with them, with the director, earlier this week. Last week. It's only Monday today. And we reviewed what caseloads look like, what we'd be looking at, curriculum.
So you have, to Benita's point, you have an organizational structure in place since talking with okay. And resources.
There's a portion, 8th graders move on to high school. Elementary, there are fewer elementary kids coming into OIS with a current service on the IEP such as this. We're looking at a comprehensive kind of program involving our school psychologists. Our school psychologists are all but one are full-time in our schools, be able to coordinate, collaborate with district staff, work with our board certified behavior analyst if we move that direction as well, looking at a full-time position there. Really just looking at a comprehensive, coherent implementation of student support.
What is it currently?
Currently meaning?
Like, because you're saying is it not as comprehensive?
The behavior, this specialist, this particular position is a 0.4, so limited on days across the week. Our contracted agencies attend to matters that are under their guise at a particular day or time. They're not within our auspices to be able to collaborate. We can certainly request meetings and all. I think we're trying to make this a seamless and more comprehensive overall support for our students with IEPs.
It seems like more readily available.
And available through a 5-day work week. Yes. Yeah. Similar to, we have itinerant folks such as our occupational therapist who works across our district, tends to student IEPs at all 5 schools. On whichever day there are IEP meetings or student assessments, attends to those.
What might be your thoughts on managing the transitions for any of the students or their families?
Yeah, I think communication, let's make it as transparent. Work with our behavior specialist as to what that looks like for the handoff and transition. It was helpful to go through every single, look at every single service delivery, what that looks like, how it's written down. I do feel confident given that goals are already stated in IEPs that indicate psychologist is the provider. Yeah.
This item was on discussion last month, so I have been able to ask my questions in the meantime, and they were similar to what's already been mentioned in terms of, number one, I know even prior to me joining the board, there's been a lot of effort and focus on student mental health across the board, not just for students with 504s or IEPs. I certainly value that. I do not want to see that diminished at all. I think in asking my questions, I don't believe this shift in the way the program's organized would result in a diminishing of what's offered. And I think you just reiterated that you've already thought through how the students would be receiving that type of intervention. It sounds like the specific kind of group work has been really effective, and I want to make sure that that continues. Obviously, the person behind it makes a big difference, but I want to make sure that that is as seamless as possible in terms of the kind of service, programming, style that's already going on and has seemed to work really effectively. I know from last year bringing speech therapy in-house, it's not the same thing, I recognize that, but having someone as a full-time employee be able to do that in-house work made a really big difference, not just financially, but also just programmatically, and being able to serve kids more flexibly. It's just a lot better to have control over that rather than contract out. And for that reason, I support a reorganization that allows that position to be within the district. And I think that does up collaboration across all students, both general ed and for our wellness counselors, along with the people who are serving students with IEPs and 504s. So I think that move is an important one.
Yeah, I would just echo the sentiments of my colleagues here and just, my, main consideration here just relates to the service for our students and the priority that the goals that we've set as a board in terms of mental health and, addressing the needs of our special ed students. And I'm hearing you say that you're confident that this reorganization will, meet those needs.
And we're looking to increase, we have one school psychologist who's not full-time. We're looking to increase the position to all of them are full-time school psychologists at our schools.
Thank you. This could probably also increase flexibility of when groups meet.
Absolutely. Yes, absolutely.
Can you repeat that just so if we...
This could possibly increase flexibility of when groups would meet.
This model.
All right, this item is on for action. Is there a motion?
This is Hillary. I move that the board adopt resolution 25-16, discontinuance of classified employees due to a lack of work and/or funds.
This is Benita. I second.
Trustee Phillips? Aye. Trustee Rivera?
Aye.
Trustee Weaver? Aye. Vice President Shogun? Aye. President Collins-Coleman?
Aye.
Motion carries.
All right, moving on to item 7F, 24-25 second interim report. Mika.
I'll keep moving as you talk.
I'll stand up. This is like an interim report to the state. We provide report to the state 4 times a year.
Mika, you're injured. You can stay seated. It's okay. I'll just keep moving the slides.
I thought it's easier to talk.
Okay.
I guess.
Oh, I'm sorry.
So this is the annual budget cycle. Right now, we are here on the bottom one. The financial data as of January 31st, that is reported due to the state, to the county, March 15th. Next one, please. So the basic data for 24-25 budget is about the same from first interim. The enrollment increased just 1. The UPP count, the ADA percentage, it's ABS 88% slightly decreased. It was one like 96.51. It became 96.47. It's little decrease. That is reflected to the LCFF revenue. Quota didn't change, STIRS, PERS rate didn't change. Basically, other things are the same from the first interim. So let's look at the revenues. So Orinda's revenue, this blue part is LCFF revenue. That's about 63%. This is based on the attendance, how many days kids come to school. State give us money based on the ADA. And the significant difference in Orinda's financial is this purple part. The local revenue is, with this second interim time, right now it's 28%, partially coming from the parcel tax, local donation, and other things, interest earnings, those things. Next slide, please. So the highlight of the second interim revenue is that, like I said, the ADA P1 that was reported in January, that decreased slightly in TK and NPF. So that was downward adjusted, and also there was a Friday adjustment. Another thing is we received funding from Control Cost of Transportation Authority. That is significant amount. We didn't have it in the budget because we were not sure how much it will be. So it was added. We received donations, 250,000, and the parcel tax, we needed to adjust down a little bit. Next slide, please. So this is the revenue numbers. School district receive unrestricted fund and restricted fund. So this table shows combined revenue. And how it's done is, this is when we adopted the budget. This is the first interim back in October 31st, and this is the second interim. And this change is showing the difference between first interim and second interim. So the total wise, 366,000 increase. And mainly this is coming from the transportation related income and the capital project income that we received after we started the year. Next one shows unrestricted fund and restricted fund separately. This is unrestricted fund. As you can see, this one is LCFF based on the ADA decrease. And I'm sorry, yes, next one. So restricted side, the notable change here is this is, if you recall last year, the EDOP, we were not using it. And so returning to the state amount has been booked in the budget. And here is the transportation income and donation income, 600,000 increase. Any question about revenues?
What is the, what the transportation revenue, what's that going to be used for?
That will be used to pay the La Orinda bus services. So it's more like,
back into transportation.
yes. So we receive money and that will be used to pay.
It's a different way of processing it though than we've done.
Yes.
So they can capture some of the state money.
Right.
Can you explain why the parcel tax revenue went down, decreased?
We budgeted based on the number of parcel, but there are some not collectible, but delinquent taxes.
I see.
So that we didn't actually receive.
There's a loss of 73,000. Okay, thank you.
So next one is expenditure. This blue part and the red part, these are the salary and benefits. It's about 81% of our expenditure. And then we have supply and services and some capital outlay. So this is a pie chart. Hasn't changed that much. So next slide shows the highlights. After the first interim, we hired some special service assistant. So we moved the budget from contract to the salary and benefit budget. Textbook budget was adjusted to reflect the actual needs for this year. Transportation budget, the money we received and paid, that amount was added to the expenditure budget.
capital project budget was increased as we received the local donations. A significant thing was utility budget, electricity budget. Now we start seeing the credit for the solar. So we decreased the electricity budget. And also insurance budget, it was reduced reflecting the actual payment.
And so the question on the last one. So the maintenance facility repair increase, I'm just sort of looking at these and wondering if we've seen much impact of inflation, just generally speaking. I'm assuming that might, if anywhere, be in maintenance and repair.
We are seeing the inflation, but also we have been experiencing this breaks down. This needs a little more
aging infrastructure.
Aging,
that's it.
And equipment.
The actual costs of
The breaking down, and we see, repair and actually buying new one, which makes sense. Those things, something we couldn't foresee.
Thank you.
So this table is sorted the same way. The certificated budget, classified, and this is combined table, and we will show separately unrestricted and restricted. But overall, the expenditure increased by 321,000 compared to first interim. So notable thing here is unrestricted side, contract and services. This is reflecting the decrease in the utility and insurance budget, and also some subscription, software subscription budget that was decreased to meet the needs. Next one is restricted. So here is the textbook payment that is from lottery. We decreased a little. And here, this is the one with combination of capital project and also transportation payment. And so capital project budget, the donation we received, the expenditure is actually some coming from here, some coming here. Any question about the expenditure? So let's look at the overall, where we are in the fund balance. So the total revenue increased by 367, but the expenditure increased as well, 321. So overall difference in the fund balance is the net change is 46,000 increase. So when we adopted, this was the net change. The difference between revenue and expenditure. So now it got smaller. So this is a good thing. Example. So this is a summary. So revenue plus revenue minus expenditure. This is the net change. And ending fund balance is this much. Within the ending fund balance, we have 907,000. This is restricted. So we can only use it for restricted purpose. This is 9% reserve. And this is assigned. And 280,000 is unassigned, which is 87,000 more than first interim. So this is the projected ending fund balance for other funds. This is Fund 1, but this is Cafeteria Food Service Fund. And Deferred Maintenance Fund, we project everything will be spent. Building Fund bond money, the developer fee money, and this is used with the portables and when we have increase in enrollment. The special reserve, this is facility money. This is debt service fund. It's paying back the interest and the principal for the GEO bond. 63, this is BASC fund. We project 52,000 at the end of the year. And 71 is the OPET fund. So moving on to multi-year projection. So multi-year projection assumption is based on this. Enrollment is, other than this year, it's based on demographic study. Quota changed slightly. Next year, it's 0.5% less. 26, 27 changed too. And other things we adjusted after the January's governor's budget proposal. And one thing to note, the big difference in January was governor added TK add-on rate increase. So we have been receiving the TK add-on, but he almost doubled the rate. But important to note is this is proposal that was made before the Southern California fire and other things. So we need to see how this plays out, but in the multi-year projection, we included this one. Other assumption, it hasn't changed from first interim, for 5% increase in one donation, 4.0 FTE increase, reflecting the TK increase, 2.07 PKS that we passed today. It was included in the multi-year 0.4 reduction as well. And this part hasn't changed. The difference between first interim, second interim was because of our old facilities and deferred maintenance fund will be fully spent at the end of this year. We included the interfund transfer to the deferred maintenance fund.
And just to clarify for this, and I think you talked about this a little bit on the last one, but the increase in projected enrollment is in the elementary school levels.
Yes. Mainly TK.
Mainly TK.
So this is overall picture. Net beginning fund balance. This is the leftover from prior year. So in 24-25, we started with 7.5 million, and we received revenue and used expenditure net change here. So we project we are going to end with about 6 million. And the same way moving. So this is at the end of 25-26. This is 26-27. Any question about fund balance, multi-year projection? So reviewing the first interim, again, TK add-on, we included it, but we need to monitor how it's going to play out at the May revision. And here's the ending fund balance change from 2021 on. As you can see, this red part, these are restricted fund. We can't use it to anything else but some restricted particular purpose. And you see it here because we have one-time funds and it's going to be fully used unless we are going to receive another one-time funds. So this is the end of the slide, and we are bringing this to you with a positive certification.
Thank you, Mika. Is there any public comment before we go
There's
to
no public comment.
discussion? I know we were asking questions, but are there additional questions, discussion for Mika?
No, I just would like to thank you, as always, for your very thorough presentations and for all your work on this.
Likewise, your numbers are always pretty darn similar to what you said they were going to be. So appreciate that, and it helps to see it ahead of time too. I don't have any questions. I think the one thing that's still just the giant question mark is what might happen to that TK add-on money and what we can use to actually project out into the future. So hopefully by the next report, we'll just have more solid information.
Which will be June.
Right.
And I asked my questions. So.
Yeah. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you, Mika, for the comprehensive report. Really appreciate that. This item is on for action.
This is Hillary. I move that the board approve the 2024-25 second interim report with a positive certification.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Passes. Item 7G, this item was pulled from the agenda. So going on to item 7H, proposal from Mobile Modular for SDC Portable. Stuart?
Yep, at the December 16th, 2024 board meeting, a new SDC portable classroom was approved to be placed at Del Rey due to increased enrollment. Proposals from Mobile Modular to supply, place, and accounts for 36 months of lease payments. We recommend approval.
Great, thank you. Comments, discussion, questions for Stuart?
Although there's a huge demand of portables going down to LA because of the fires, so we're under quite a lot of pressure to get this locked in and make sure we have it.
Thank you for adding that.
Yeah, I would just say I appreciated the opportunity to go to Del Rey and see where this is going to be placed and get a better, understanding of.
Yes. Okay, indeed, is there a motion?
This is Hillary. I move that the board approve the lease agreement with Mobile Modular for 36 months.
This is Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you, motion passes. All right. Moving on to, excuse me, item 8A, revision of the OUSD mobile device policy.
Really young viewers out there waiting patiently. Thank you so much as we go through the action items. This is our second time this year that we're bringing the mobile device policy to the board. And what we'll do is why we're here, reason for the policy review. We'll go through just a couple items around what the current policy have, the rationale for change. We administered a survey and we'll go just through a few highlights of the survey and then some recommendations for policy change, which is not up for action, but it's kind of a first reading discussion that we could bring back, and then implementation and timeline. So with that, reasons for the review, as I mentioned, actually last time when we brought this back in September, it was during the 23-24 school year. So last year that we committed to bringing board policy 51318, which is our mobile communication devices for review and discussion. And it was actually recommended by our wellness steering committee because social media and cell phone use was one of the top topics. It was almost like the only topic in that wellness committee that was talked about. So, and then in the meantime, during the summer of 2024, Assembly Bill 3216 passed. It was also became known as the Phone Free School Act. It was passed during the summer, requiring all California school districts to develop a policy limiting the use of smartphones by July 2026. As I pointed out back in September, we actually already meet and we already have a policy that pretty much meets those guidelines, but it allowed us to bring back the policy and examine how it aligns to the AB 3216. So during the September board meeting, the board had some next steps and the staff had some next steps, and that included the revisions to the current board policy, getting some feedback from staff, students, and parents, and to see what kind of support do we need. So with that, our current board policy, and it is attached, and then some recommended suggestions that I'll open up in a second. But our current policy is aligned to CSBA recommendations, but it recognizes there are potential benefits because we do live in a digital world out there, but so recognizes that there are benefits to learning, and then it also acknowledges that there's a lot of disruptions to learning as well that could be caused by the mobile devices, especially during instructional time. Our policy currently states that students must turn off their devices during instructional time. However, will not be prohibited from using them during the following instances. And our policy lists those instances, which are allowances outlined by the Ed Code. So they're in case of an emergency or in response to a perceived threat or danger, when a student has a permission from a staff member, when a licensed physician determines that the possession is necessary for students' health and well-being, or when the possession of use is required or allowed by the student's IEP. So that is what's in our current policy, and that's aligned by the Ed Code and is actually aligned with the new Assembly Bill. So the new Assembly Bill did not do anything different than what's already in the Ed Code. So what is the rationale for change? While Orinda has a policy limiting use of devices on campuses, there is further need for clarity, consistency, and alignment with the new Assembly Bill, and for further need for clarity, consistency, and alignment with best practices. So technology and devices use has and continues to change significantly amongst our students in our schools. Even from last year to this year, there's just a growing increase, and in younger ages. Staff is experiencing ongoing challenges in enforcing the current rules. And OUSD staff has heard concerns from parents, us included, our teachers, our principals, heard concerns from parents and staff related to the use of devices and technology. So we administered a survey. It was a brief survey to make sure that it's very focused. It was administered to all of our staff members, certificate and classified. We had 118 total staff responded, which as our surveys go is actually very high response rate. Out of those 118, 76% of those were teachers who responded, and then just under a quarter were other staff members like SSAs, IAs, BASC employees, counselors, and so on. It was administered to all OUSD parents, regardless of the grade, but there were two separate surveys given. Usually we give just one parent survey and they have to, mark grade levels, but then we can't tell, are you responding for your middle schooler? Or are you responding for elementary school students? So we actually gave them separately this time because we wanted to really distinguish what's the difference between our younger ages and middle school ages. So we had 371 elementary school parents respond and 290 OIS parents respond, which is also probably our highest response rate we've ever had. We wish we had our LCAP responses are this high. So elementary students in grades 4 and 5 were given a survey, which thanks to our teachers who administered it, we had 504 elementary 4th and 5th graders responding, and they did that in school. And then OIS students, 705 students responded, which they were given in core classes, all of the grades, and they were pretty equally represented actually between 6th, 7th, and 8th grade. So very statistically significant numbers. So these are some highlights throughout. So we asked, parents were asked if their child has a cell phone or a similar device, and we described what that similar device is, smartwatches with cellular, tablets or laptops, and 90% of our elementary school students who have a device have a smartwatch. By the way, out of those people that responded, who said yes, those devices are smartwatches. Sorry, I should have phrased that a little differently. So you can see who are the parents in that light blue of elementary school students said yes, 66% of the respondents said that they actually have some sort of a smart device. Parents in OIS at 86%, and so most of those are smartwatches. 4th and 5th grade students, 15% of them said they reported they have a cell phone actually, and others had a mix of watches, iPads, laptops, multiple devices. And then 64% of our OIS students said that they have a smartphone.
Just a quick question here. What do you think accounts for the discrepancy between what students think and what parents think? Right, like if 95% of elementary students say they have a device, but only 66% of their parents do.
I think it's what they're counting. So
I was wondering if they were thinking
they're counting
a Chromebook.
Correct. I think that's what it is.
Okay.
Correct.
Yeah.
So even though the survey question actually said, do you have a personal device?
Might not understand what
they
that
didn't
meant.
understand that. So I actually think when you look at the 4th, 5th grade answers, some of them will be off versus the others are a little more matched up.
That's what you say in the,
Right.
the footnote.
Yeah. But with that said, 64% of the OIS students having a smartphone out of the respondents, okay, that makes sense. But 99% having something. I will have to say, because I've read through every single comment, there is also discrepancy, like from what parents believe is a device. They will say, my child does not have any devices. But then in the comments will say, well, they have a laptop or an iPad, but they don't have a phone. I'm like, well, they have internet on the iPad. They're accessing the same thing as this phone. They're not carrying it with them, maybe, but they have access. Or there are questions they're asking about like social media, but then they're saying, no, they don't have social media. Well, they have TikTok. I'm like, well, so there are some discrepancies. I actually think there's education opportunities for every single grade level of what it is.
Yeah, I'm not surprised that there's a
So I think there's
difference.
discrepancies all over the place because there's a lack of understanding of what a smart device is and what you can do with it. Because even a laptop, you can text, you can access all. And I think there was clearly because I would narrow down to like, no, my child does not have any devices. So I would just go to those answers. But their answers and free responses were like, well, clearly based on these, they do. So what does that mean? So I think there's lack of understanding of what like access to kids have on other devices that is not a phone.
And then how do kids perceive that if they're on a Chromebook at school? They think that.
Yes. And the
You know, how
children,
it's
like,
used.
you asked me if I have a device. Here it is. I'm taking my response. Of course I have a device. It's right in front of me. Yeah. So then, but the question was, do you use a personal device in the classroom? And it said, very much a personal device. So if you look at our staff members at elementary school in light blue, they were asked if they observe a student using a personal device. And if you think back that most of them are referring to watches, right? Personal devices are watches. They said 73% see them using, and we do, like, that matches anecdotal data. Our elementary school teachers are talking about kids are using their watches. But our students were asked, like they're saying, no, only, 9% of them said in 4th and 5th grade is how many use it. Now, are they like not wanting to admit that? Or is it true? I don't know. Most of them said, I just check for time and I have to check my steps. So they're very conscientious about time and steps. So 5%, 85% of our OIS staff said they're using personal devices. I mean, that's a really high number. While 15% of our students, 5% of our students at OIS said, and 33 sometimes, right? So sometimes and yes, if you match that up. So it's still quite a discrepancy in what they're saying. So when asked what they use their personal devices for, 4th and 5th graders said schoolwork and learning. But if it's smartwatches, I don't see how that works out. So that's why, to your point, I think they were talking about everything else, their tablets, their laptops, and all of that. But they were checking off, by far, the number one answer was schoolwork and learning. But then when it really comes down to it, was also looking at the time, and then contacting parents was all over the place. It was texting with parents and contacting parents. OIS students talked about completing assignments, research, listening to music, communication with friends, teachers, parent texting, and then gaming. A little more diversity there. Elementary school staff stated when asked what would they use, they were given 3 choices. 69% said non-educational reasons, 17% educational. So even staff was clearly seeing like they were not talking just personal devices, just other things. Or mix of educational, non-educational. OIS staff said non-educational reason, 32% educational, 29, and mix is 39. And actually, when you looked at staff responses from OIS, teachers were talking about, well, we use them for videoing in a video class. Where in leadership, we use it for photo or so on. So there's a lot of usage, or we allow them to use music while we're doing such and such. So there is a lot of usage actually of different devices throughout, taking a picture of something. Yeah. So it wasn't a surprising that there was such a higher educational reason. When asked about are the personal devices as a distraction, so staff members at elementary schools said, yes, 20%, sometimes 71%, no, 8%. OIS, yes, 18%, no, 32%, 50% sometimes. And then our students, clearly in elementary school, believe that that is not a distraction. At the middle school, they're actually a little more like, yep, 19, yep, they're like, yeah, it's distracting to me a little more, 45%, not so much. Staff members were asked, you can see the staff described most common disruptions, including students receiving texts from family, which matched up with what students were saying actually in open response questions. Also trying to game or access apps would actually, when we were talking about personal devices, but on Chromebooks, teachers described, tried to hide tabs quickly, what was going on, or quickly hiding, which we do actually have securely. You can watch it. They thought that was quite an invasion of their privacy. Kevin is giggling over that. Looking at photos, phone calls, that's what they're doing. Classroom device norms. Okay, so this should be a mismatch, right? Because if you look at the question, the way it was asked, staff members were asked if they have established norms or rules regarding device usage, while students were asked if their teachers allows them. So it should be the opposite number, right? So, and it is for the most part. For example, on the yeses, elementary school staff said, yes, we have norms at 73%, and it's really low on, how many students say that they allow us. So that should be actually the opposite number, which is, it kind of matches up. 38% of staff members who have clear norms feel they are very effective. 48% stated that they're somewhat effective. 4% they were not effective, and 10% were not sure. So I think if we can establish some very clear norms, put out in communications what they are, there were a lot of our elementary school staff members actually didn't even know that we had some of the policies that was brought back to us is like, you need to do a better job communicating, establishing this, pushing it out to communication, and what does that look like? Okay, so when asked what type of help would our students want, our fourth and fifth graders said, help in how to use devices for schoolwork, help on how not to get distracted by a device, how to use a device safely, learn new things about the device. And these were, you could put in other and so on. OIS students also wanted to use the devices for learning. They also want clear classroom rules, tips on avoiding distractions, tips on avoiding distraction at home, and how to limit screen time. So the free responses were not just around school, it was a lot of things at home too. So a lot more tips on how do I use this thing in my hand. When asked what type of help would our parents want, setting up parental controls was by far across an elementary school and actually in OIS as well. Guidance on addressing cyberbullying and online safety, resources for managing screen time, online safety, parent coalitions like wait till 8, no cell phones until high school. I say parents because we can't enforce that. So how do we support that? OIS parents also stated setting up parental controls, social media impacts, cyberbullying, and at-home guidelines for safe cell phone use these are the top ones that came through. There was a lot of one-offs here and there. Okay, so with that, we'll show some updates. Policy was updated to reflect currently used digital devices, just smartphones, smartwatches. We removed some old verbiage. Policy reflects the increase in use of devices and impact on instructional time. Students are not allowed to currently use devices during instructional time, including recess, brunch, or lunch. What we're recommending also is that in elementary schools, all devices, including smartwatches, be stored in student backpacks. Right now, that is based on really the implementation of a principal or depending on classroom to classroom. So we're recommending that be a uniform procedure. At OIS, we are recommending that all devices be stored in an in-class device carrier. So the reason we are moving away from the backpack is because they are outside, versus for middle schools. So our students do go to the bathroom alone. They easily can pick them up. That's where actually the usage was a lot of commentary around picking them up, going to the bathroom, using it there. So we can't monitor that because it's such a much bigger campus.
Similar to what Miramonte has.
So it's very much
Yeah.
what Miramonte has. Students would drop off their device upon entering a class and then picking up at the end of the period. So education events would be organized kind of based on that requested support of student staff and what we saw in the survey. We do have a first evening. It's very limited. It's in collaboration with district attorney's office tomorrow night at OIS. I mean, it's sold out very quickly. We have a waiting list. So we'll confirm the people that are coming tomorrow. And I'll be there as well. But it is around really addressing those top concerns around parental controls, safety online. How do you do that? So we want to replicate that.
I do have a question just about what's being recommended. At our last board coffee, Katie and I had somebody attend who had also requested that devices basically just not be accessible from the time you arrive to school until you go home. Is that not part of the recommendation here? Is that too hard to monitor?
So we don't know how, I guess they would have to go at the end of the day. They would have to pick it up from their first the period.
And even just to have them in their backpack when they arrive at school so that they're not standing around in front of school on their devices, just really trying to.
Oh, yeah. Well, when they're on a school campus, even.
So I guess this doesn't quite, this talks about recess, brunch, or lunch. It doesn't talk about, arrival at OIS.
We didn't put that on there because once they're on campus, they're not supposed to be on their phone. We just don't have a way to implement. I mean, at lunch and brunch, we have supervision out there. And actually, as we were walking around last week, we were trying to find students.
We wanted to find students and we couldn't find any students on their device.
That is before school. I mean, we're just talking lunch and brunch. So before school and after school.
Or even in between, when they were walking in between classes, no one was on their phone.
So before school, it is, I mean, we saw it. They use it on the buses, which we have no jurisdiction or supervision on. Before school, after they get dropped off, they're not supposed to be.
I guess my question is if we can
enough
make that clear in the policy then, that, before school also.
I guess the question is, do we put it in the policy to enforce it? Like, I know it's a double-edged sword. I don't know that I have.
What does the mandate say from the governor's office about?
You have a policy.
You have a policy.
During instructional time. And that's not, I mean.
I don't want to miss this point, but kind of vaguely related, which might help at least me think through it. Like if the student at OIS wants to just put the phone in their backpack all day.
Yes.
They can do that too.
Oh, meaning as a
box each time.
Well, that's the other. I mean, that's going to be that I'm just going to, I guess, say, I mean, probably have some OIS students here. Listen, I mean, when you're at a high school, you can almost assume that every single student has a device. So they come into the classroom at our high school campuses and have you turned in your cell phone? Have you turned in your cell phone? They know, and they fill up the buckets. I mean, are they some of them putting in burner phones in there? Are they some of them putting in old some? Sure. That's what happens with the magnetic pouches. That's what happens with these boxes. Not all of our students have smartphones or watches to put in there. So they are going to be, if everybody gets an assigned little slot, there's going to be slots that are empty because not everybody has a device. So you won't have anything to put in there. So now I can't, do you have a device or do you not have a device? Is yours in a backpack or do you just not have a device? I don't know that because we're not going to, we can't, that's going to be the hard part about the implementation. And that's the same thing with, that's the difference. So will somebody put in a burner phone into the slot or will somebody say, I don't have a device and keep it in their backpack? We can't search their backpacks.
So what happens if they keep it in their backpack and we see it or a teacher sees it later? What happens then?
I think it's just right now they get confiscated cell phones if they're using them on campus.
Right. I mean, the big goal here is to
not use them. Yeah.
I think a lot of it also has to do with like education, empowering the students about, what it means to have digital literacy or what have you. And then equipping parents with the resources like we're having tomorrow night at the Attorney General's office, whoever's office it is. But, and I know it gets expensive too, because then with the boxes, we have to purchase those, right, for every classroom, for the kids to submit, turn them in as they enter, right? Have we captured that?
Yeah, we
budget?
haven't.
Okay.
We wanted to, when we come to like implementation, we can immediately start, we haven't acted on it. This is for discussion. Should we bring this back in April just as a board policy? We can implement that right away, as in everything needs to be in the backpack, you can't use it. But what I would do is like to get a couple of those carriers for a couple of classrooms and just see how that goes. Because it is different in the high school. In a good way is that we don't have the same usage. At the high school, they're getting them up and then they're using them all, between periods, at lunchtime and at brunch. It is used widely. That's not happening at OIS. Do we have one-offs? Sure. But that goes to the question of implementation. We can say there's no use of devices the second you get in a car to the home, but then like who's actually, I want to be realistic about how many staff resources we have. Who's out there? If we do that, that is all we're going to be doing. We are doing nothing else. And that's like, we should prioritize.
I'm not suggesting that.
I'm just saying.
It's more just, changing the culture. So that's kind of just, when kids come to school, push your device away.
Absolutely.
Yeah, I was at the same board coffee with Hillary, and it's come up before. I think did you want to finish? Are you done with it? Can I jump in? I think it really is all about the implementation. I was at OAS with Benita. We really were scanning. We saw no devices
catch kids
during brunch. I know anecdotally from hearing from students that the bathroom is the time when maybe they take the phone, and kids even know who's using a device based on where they are in the bathroom. So I think it happens. So my concern with not using bins or not trying that model and see if it works is that if the phones are still available when you're kind of on your own, maybe you go and use it. And, there's a temptation to use it as opposed to being in a bin. On the other hand, I have a student at Campo. If he wants to get in touch with me at any time of the day, he absolutely can. He has a computer in front of him. I don't even think all the teachers do implement the pouches. Maybe freshman year they did, but I'm pretty sure
your money
they're not happening anymore.
Yes, but I get the same from my
there's no, it's like, I'm not sure that model has really worked as it was intended in terms of limiting how much access they have to their devices. They use them during classwork all the time, and it affects me then too. So I guess with the bins, I like the idea of maybe trying out.
That's what
I'm thinking in my head, and I know there's still OS teachers here, like that implementation, like how much time does it take to collect the devices? Who's? Did you put it in the right spot? Did you bring it today? Did you?
It's gonna be buzzing the whole time.
Well, or do you can turn it off? You can do it like what does that look like? I think a cultural shift would be really good and important. I do really think that the kids are asking to know how to stop using their devices. Parents are asking, how do you stop using it? I noticed it myself, frankly, children who've more or less voiced the same thing, right? And maybe I don't think like monitoring every second that they're on campus, particularly at OAS, is reasonable. I think the elementary's watches being away is something that could be monitored.
Yes.
It's there's not as many of it, but is there a time? It's not like when the device-free time begins at OIS. I know students arrive at all different times, but like, is it 10 minutes before class starts? Is it at some point where like, you're on campus now, put it away, and whoever happens to be around you, put it away until that culture becomes a little more stuck. I think the bus is really where a lot of stuff happens. We don't have jurisdiction over that. But I think the cultural shift, there's still more to do in the cultural shift. I'm also in favor of the elementary school devices being just away, away.
Which I think that's what this is.
Yeah. And also, I guess one last thing, I know I'm taking up a lot of airtime with the, I do think the students weren't quite sure about the questions, like especially elementary, what it means. And there has been more and more articles and things out there around just If it's open, right, then you want to look at it or whatever. And is there a way to kind of enforce a culture of like, it's down unless you need it. And when the teacher tells you you need to open the Chromebook or whatever, then you use it and you use it from this time to this time. And then it's shot and it's away. So there's not as much temptation. Maybe that's already happening. But I think there's a recent article about even college professors who've noticed they have to like tell students that they need to go away.
I agree with all of
Those are my
that.
thoughts.
Yeah. I think this, it's going to require a true partnership between families and staff, and educating families about how to limit the actual device by putting screen time limits so that they can't even access their phones or use it when, during certain time periods. So I think some of that education will help.
Yeah, recognizing this is not a one-size-fits-all approach. I agree with everything that's been said, and I think we all agree that students thrive better when they have phone-free learning environments. And so if we can help develop those healthy habits, digital literacy education, support our educators with practical phone-free strategies or implementation strategies as we figure out, how they'll capture the phones or smartwatches so they can feel supported and know what to do. And then, as Vanita said, partner with the parents to reinforce device boundaries. What many personal devices and all those things I think will be helpful during instructional time. And, you think about when they're home or in the car or going from activity to activity. Yeah.
Are you envisioning like the wooden boxes or like the pouches or what? I wish that we could get our woodworking class to make the boxes for them. Get OIS.
We're going to visit at the high.
Hermione.
Yeah.
Well, they have a mix there.
I've seen both the Rubbermaid bins and then the wood.
We want something that you can visibly see what's in there. So that's out of sight, out of mind.
I've seen some teachers at Miramonte put it behind their desk too, when the students put it in there. Yeah.
I think it is, to the point, it is a partnership. Giving a child a middle school age a phone is a lot of responsibility on the kid. It's a lot. It takes a lot of parenting. I feel like it's daily because I know there's a couple of us in here that have middle school kids along with you. It is a daily checking, daily examination, daily communication. And some of them still can't handle it. So, and then there's the school implementation, which is daily. So it is a lot because we've given them a lot of computers in their hands. But it is a true partnership. We can't do it alone. And neither can the parents. So it is, we can limit on the school campuses, but if they have a free range at home, then we're at a loss.
I would just like to say a bravo to those two for keeping themselves entertained without my device this week. So.
Maybe this is a bigger wrinkle than you want to be looking at this policy. I know you're wanting,
No, I just put it up there.
A suggestion for were we to revisit this in April would be the watches at the elementary level are placed in backpacks. What about at the middle school level? And I wear a watch. I know how many times it beeps at me. And it is, control. But if they were using it to check time or steps, it's just like another thing that's there that during school hours, maybe an adolescent doesn't need on their person.
We placed in the policy, students may not use mobile devices on campus during school hours. So that's
where is it located?
Devices may be stored in a backpack or other bag. So they're not on them. There shouldn't be. And devices, and up on top, we qualify devices as mobile communication devices, cell phones, smartwatches, or other mobile communication devices. So that does not say that it's just
elementary. Yeah. Okay. That was me.
That was how I read. Yeah. No, I read it as not being.
So that was just on the slides of how it would be divided up. just because of the outside factor, difference of the middle school age. But really, the policy itself, we don't put in like, hey, we have boxes or how we store them in board policies. That's too granular. But what we're saying is you really, once you're on the campus during school hours, because we also don't have supervision over outside of school hours. So it's stated as a non-school hours, devices may be store them in your backpack or another bag. We did address after school hours. I mean, we can say before or after school hours, but it's really for school sponsored events that we are encouraging to create events free of mobile and communication device. So we don't have jurisdiction over like an event, like a basketball game or something. We can't implement it.
You do know that, I mean, more governors are coming out and saying just complete phone-free schools.
Well, they're saying that, but they're putting it on the schools.
Well, like the state of New York, I'm not talking about California, but the state of New York and other states on the East Coast that completely banned phones and mobile devices and smartwatches. So that's just something that's on the horizon. I know this is only up for discussion. Do we have public comment?
We have 3 public comments. Yes. We can have Jennifer Lee, Aaron Garfin, and Yvette in that order if we can. Jennifer? Oh, sorry.
Hi, thanks for having me. I guess what I really wanted to address is I'm kind of with you. Like I feel like it's really important, not just during the instructional time for them to not have access to the phones, but really for like the social time in between. So in between classes, whether it's lunch or brunch or whatever, like I almost think it's equally important for them to be able to sit and have conversations and connect. Like there's been studies done on Mount Sinai that say that the dopamine levels of in-person conversations are greater than those that are when you're on your phone or on a device. And so when we're thinking about like mental health of our middle schoolers and depression levels and all of those things that are like going up, it's just so important for them to have that communication face to face instead of behind a device. I mean, I see middle school girls walking to school 4 in a row, and each of them are on their devices. It's like, it's beyond me that you can be walking with your friend and still be texting other friends and not communicating with each other right next to each other. And then there are like, I mean, I know you probably know all these different like studies that have been done, but you see them walk into college campuses and into cafeterias and like being able to hear a pin drop, like it's just really frightening. And so if we can, to your point, if we can start to change the culture now and have the kids feel comfortable sitting with people, connecting with them, like really getting that dopamine that they need, I think that that's going to like really create a much better environment just for the kids moving forward, being able to connect with people and adults and getting that social time that they really need at this age. So I think that's is that I was listening to a podcast where we were talking about another time where they took the phones out of schools. It was really interesting. Bullying went down. Physical fist fighting went down because people were not able to coordinate and say, hey, we're going to go have this fight over the playground at this time. Everyone be there. So like even those things like bullying and altercations, I think that's also a really important reason to keep those devices off campus the whole time.
Erin?
Hi. Hey guys, I'm Erin. I have 2 boys at Delray. Thank you, Mina. I have a 5th grader that's going to be starting at OAS in the fall. So this hits home. And so many wonderful things that you guys shared tonight. Like it was really nice being a part of your discussion because I actually have different thoughts than what I had written down. But I'm just going to still continue to share what I thought about, just because I really want to drill it home. I feel like we are a new generation of parents that have much more information about the usage and the negative effects it has on our children and their friends. We are witnessing social disconnection with excessive cell phone use, which we see them reducing face-to-face interactions, leading to social isolation. Students may become more focused on virtual connections rather than building an in-person relationship, which is an essential skill for social development. They're missing a key component of adolescence by losing the ability to really socialize with their peers, their teachers, adult friends that they spend many after-school playdates with. It's a huge major social milestone that I feel like they're missing out on as they are so preoccupied by their cell phones. Socialization is considered an integral part to adolescent development, influencing emotional health, cognitive processing, social competencies, ensuring that adolescents have ample opportunities for meaningful social interactions is essential for their overall well-being and long-term success. So therefore, I'm advocating with all my friends here for 100% cell phone free school to foster a stronger sense of community on campus, improve communication skills, drive fewer distractions. And as you look at revising the policy, please consider an option that would mandate 100% cell phone free day on the campuses.
Hi, everyone. I'm Yvette Nichols, and I am a Delray parent of 2. I've got a patient, Ellie, here, and Charlie, who's 10 and is going to be a 6th grader next year at OIS, so I have a vested interest in this. And like Erin, I had something typed up and prepared, and actually being a part of the discussion and hearing so many of the questions you all asked was very helpful for me because it tells me we're on the same page in terms of how we're thinking about this and why this is important for our students. And I think that is so much of what I will ask is let's ground this in the why. I echo Erin's comments, Nina's comments. I will also say hiring so many young people as a part of my job, I recognize every day how many of them don't have skills in awkward social situations or how to start a meeting off with just chit chat or how to ask, pick up the phone and actually how to address someone and say, hello, is Mrs. Shogun available? I need to speak to so-and-so. They don't know how to do this. And so we as parents and as educators need to care and teach them how to do these things. They're so small, but they matter in life. They're like, take a notebook with you to meeting things. And I don't want to bog our teachers down with having to enforce this during the school day. That is so much of what I would really like to avoid in however we look at these policy revisions. But I will say that I think that I do believe in carrot and sticks. And I do believe that if we wanted to move to a true 100% cell phone free campus, which is what I'm advocating for, it would be really powerful for any time a phone is seen on campus for it to be confiscated. And I get that that is going to anger some parents, certainly anger some students. But I think those are the types of things that have to be done several times to change the culture, as you say, and really let people know this is the type of campus we want to foster. We want to foster true community. We want you to be sitting there in awkward silence next to a classmate you've never talked to and have to drum up conversation and not pretend your cell phone or your watch is enabled and doing something just to avoid that interaction. I think those are the things that happen, and I think we and our kids deserve better. So I really would love to be specific in the policy revisions. It's clear from the survey results and also just from the conversation, the questions we just had, how mobile devices are being defined is not clear to people. So I think being as specific as possible for elementary, for middle school, and for high school is going to be really important to say, is a smartphone allowed on campus? Is a Apple Watch allowed on campus? Is a gizmo, a non-internet enabled smartwatch allowed on campus? I think we have to be that specific to tell people we are trying to enforce this. So, thank you very much.
Thank you, everyone. So I know this is just up for discussion, so we'll be able to return later, maybe in a board update and just share. some
Sure,
of
well-
the questions?
Yep.
Okay,
Thank you.
thank you.
You're welcome. Thank
All
you.
right. Moving on to item 9A and B, Measure E and I implementations, or Mika. And then
Well,
Stuart.
Mika talks, Mika introduces the item. I'm gonna get our auditor.
She says she has been in the room, so.
Trying.
So this is the 23-24 fund audit. Heather Rubio from Christie White will present. They audit financial part and operational part. And we got a modified opinion and there was no findings. Or the bid process, change order process, those were in compliance.
Mika, it says I'm not the host.
Oh. How do I do this? You can't get in Zoom?
What? Is she on this call?
Yeah, she said she's here. Oh, I don't know.
Aida, can you join the call and then I can switch you over to host?
I'm sorry?
You join the call. Okay, you should be the host now.
Thank you.
Probably. You want Mika on? Probably not, right?
Never done this before.
Hi, Heather. Sorry, it's me now.
Hi, Heather.
It's all good. Give me 1 second and I just need to project you to the screen. You're not seeing what you need to be seeing. There it is. Okay. Hi, Heather. Thank you so much for being with us. Evening. So we're not going to have you present mobile devices. We'll go in here. Okay. Can you hear me? Hold on. We can't hear you. Can you say something again?
Can you guys hear me now?
Yes. Okay. All right. Let me know. Tell me where to go.
Okay, perfect. Again, I'm Heather Rubio, the Measure E and I Bond Building Fund Audit. Just as a reminder, this is an audit only of those two measures in Fund 21. And so it's very specific to the numbers that relate to those ballot measures. Just a quick piece, this is a performance and financial audit rolled into one. You go to let's go to page 1 of the audit report. Keep going. Keep going. Sorry. Next page.
One more?
Yeah. This is the report on the financial statements. So this is the auditor's opinion on the financial statements of the audit again, those in Fund 21. And we are saying that we agree with the numbers reported to you for Measure E and I, Fund didn't have any audit adjustments. So the numbers proposed that you
saw in the 23-24 unaudited actuals are the numbers we audited, and we have adjustments to those numbers. And so you have an unmodified opinion, which is the best opinion you can get. You scroll on to page 4 of the audit. These are the numbers I was talking about. So we broke them out. So what you would see on your unaudited actuals is the total number in Fund 21. This report breaks it out a little further for each bond measure E and I, and how much cash is in each measure at June 30, 2024, and any payables you have and what the fund balance for each measure is. And if you scroll on to the next page. Same thing for the revenues and expenses. So the revenues for the majority of revenues in a bond fund is going to be related to the interest earned. And so any interest you earn in these bonds goes back into the fund to be spent on the bond measure. And then there is an increase or decrease resulting from a fair value adjustment through 2024. And you have to report the cash as of that date. And so it goes up and down a little bit each year. And so you kind of are constantly catching up on the entry. And then finally, the biggest piece of the audit, the performance piece, is the expenditure audit. So for measure E, you had $9 million spent, and measure I, there was $6.8 million spent. And a big portion of our audit focused on looking at the expenditures related to those. And if you go to scroll all the way to page 14, because I kind of went into all the footnotes and a summary, is the kind of the results and procedures related to the performance audit. And so for measure E %, so not really a sample, more like the majority of expenses for measure E, and then 49% for measure I, which is a lot of expenses. And what we're testing there is making sure that anything charged to this fund is allowable, so we can tie it right back to something mentioned in the ballot measure. There is board approval and there are allowable bond projects. We didn't see any salaries or expenses charged, and then we looked at your contracts and any changes to those contracts. And so overall, Coleman's section of the audit also.
Heather,
Do you have any specific questions?
Can you just repeat that last statement? Because you froze a little bit, so we missed the part of it.
All the way back into to personnel expenditures, or
Yeah, just the personnel.
Personnel. Okay. There were not, okay. There were no salaries or benefits charged to measure any E or I during our audit. And then the bidding procedures, and we looked at the bidding procedures for any contracts entered into and any changes to contracts to both professional services and construction contracts. And we found you.
Thank you.
Didn't come across any instances of non-compliance. And then we didn't have any findings or recommendations related to measure E and I. But if you do have any questions, I'd be happy to answer.
Any questions for Heather?
No questions, just thank you.
Thank you for this comprehensive report.
Our CBOC had a lot of questions, committee had a lot of questions, just mainly about the procedures, not anything about, so yes, and that they met last week.
This item is on for action. Is there any public comment?
There's no public comment.
Okay, any more discussion from the board? Have a motion, please.
This is Hillary. I move that the board approve the 2023-24 bond measures E and I audit report.
This is Eve, a second.
All in favor? Aye.
Thank you, Heather. Appreciate your work.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you. Thank you. We appreciate it. Thank you to the district in providing everything we asked for. So we appreciate it.
Thanks for being here so late. Yeah.
All right, moving on to item 9B, modernization contract amendment. Stuart.
The original contract to Rodam Delvers for the district-wide modernization project was approved by the board on May 6, 2024. Subsequently, the guaranteed maximum price was approved on September 16, 2024, with a value of $34,924,531. This amendment item presents a contract amendment which incorporates all necessary leaseback documents, the finalized construction schedule, and the schedule of values. This amendment ensures that all contractual requirements are completed and formalized for this project. We recommend approval.
Thank you. Any discussion from the board?
So just to clarify, this is just updated so that all the Ts are crossed and Is dotted, correct?
Exactly.
The dollar amount did not change from the when we had.
Dollar amount did not change.
Yes.
These are all part of having everything that when you have the lease back have to be a part of that.
Yeah, I looked through all the schedules so I could see how far out they go and how they would all need to be together.
There's a lot of work getting to this point, yeah.
Yeah, my only question, I was going through the schedules and I didn't see, it was fairly detailed as far as, you know, the work that's going to be done. Didn't see painting in there. Didn't we approve the painting?
I'd have to honestly go back and look.
Okay.
I know it's discussed. The painting,
I mean, obviously that would be at the end.
very end.
Yes, I just wanted to make sure that that's
Painting is-
needed because that's something that we had prioritized.
Yeah, I appreciate you bringing that up because that was a question. I think that we were walking around OIS. I know each campus will be addressed at slightly different times, some not until following summer. With the painting, when would that occur? Is that when all the campuses have their windows, or is it by campus, right? And
No, it's by campus.
Two and a half,
but like, when is it?
Yeah, I mean,
or two of them.
But I didn't see that in the
I
schedule.
just want to know where it is on the schedule.
Oh, because this is the big one, this is the.
Right, but on the actual, by
Yeah.
school sites,
Okay,
I
by
didn't see it.
to
Maybe I'm-
answer your question, obviously, we're replacing the doors, exterior doors, windows. That's a lot of exterior construction. When that's done, that's.
Hey, this is the.
No,
The final, I mean, it's the final step, I understand that, but it would be after each campus is done, not waiting until they're all.
Correct. That's our understanding during the time. Yes. Yeah. And the colors are, that's why they had us already select the colors, the hardware and everything of what it's going to, because it's happening. It's supposed to happen this summer.
Yeah.
Thank you. Any public comment?
No, none
Okay.
of this.
All right. Any more discussion? This item is on for action. Do we have a motion?
This is Katie, I move that we approve the final contract amendment to Rodan Builders, including all leaseback documents, the construction schedule, and the schedule of values.
This is Hillary, I second.
All in favor? Aye. Thank you. Motion passes. All right. Thank you, Stuart. Moving on to items 10A and our vote on board policies. B through F.
I don't know.
And so, was there a question? No, Eve was just looking at the schedules to see if she saw anything.
She didn't see it in the master schedule.
Yeah, that's it, yeah.
Schedules.
Okay.
So just
ahead, yeah.
President Coleman, we usually vote on these, you all usually vote on this as a group, but we have a public comment on 10F. So if we can we hold on board policy 10F and then recommend, unless there's any other questions on other specific ones, for a vote to happen on 10B through E.
Totally fine. Is that okay with the board? Okay, all right. If we can have a motion for 10B through E policies.
This is Hillary, I move that we approve board policies 10B through E.
This is Benita, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and now for 10F, mathematics instruction, we have a public comment.
Yeah, so first we'll have Sarah just do a quick introduction of what the revision was.
Yeah.
And then we'll have,
Let me acquaint myself with this because we have a lot of policies here.
this was the mathematics instruction.
I just
the markup up here.
Yeah, so thank you for the markup. So this recommendation comes from CSBA, as you know, regarding an update because the California Department of Education passed an updated framework in 2023. And that framework references removing barriers to equitable access to advanced pathways in math instruction. And so I included those recommendations in our policy. And that's what's reflected here in green. And Anything else you notice, Aida, on first glance that I should illuminate?
That was the legal recommendation.
Great, thank you.
Really was not planning on speaking again tonight, but I'm very passionate about mathematics instruction and have worked very hard through my 24 years of education to try to maximize and give them back some opportunities. I choose my device, but I have it brought up on my device as well. No, it's okay. I can look at it. I just have to zoom in a lot.
Here you go.
At the center. I absolutely agree. We want maximum opportunities for students to go through accelerated. My concern is the removal of the demonstrated readiness. Having taught algebra for almost all of my 24 years, the skills required and the connections that students have to be able to make and the abstract thought that has to happen to make all those connections in an algebra class. When students have difficulty making those connections, they can struggle with the class and often think that maybe they're not good at math because they're just not ready yet for some of the things that they're being exposed to. And it worries me if we're taking that out, that we might be setting some students up for struggle. So I just wanted to get that out. So thank you. Thank you.
Any,
I don't know if you can address that questions in terms of demonstrated ready. I mean, that's something that we've talked about in the past in terms of, ensuring when our kids are going from 5th grade to middle school, which math class they're going into. I don't.
Yeah, so we have a really robust system for assessing the process and the placement of 5th graders into 6th grade math at OIS. It is composed of multiple measures. The students take a 2-part assessment in their 5th grade class. And one of those is a performance task. There is a online assessment in Illuminate, more of a multiple choice type question set. And then they also gather their CAS scores, their their math screening scores that we do in STAR. And so it's a really actually robust evaluation rubric. It also includes behaviors around their learner behaviors in math, how focused and engaged they are as well. So already in place, we do have this really high quality system for assessing to help do as best as we can to place students appropriately. We don't want students to be challenged in a way that's going to make math seem impossible or make them feel like they can't do it or won't be successful. We are looking through the system, which is guided by the teachers at OIS and the OIS administration, to place students appropriately.
Yeah, and this change in policy doesn't remove that.
Yeah.
Right, I just wanted to be
what
our own process is.
Yeah, right. So it doesn't remove that process. We're not opening up and saying, now you select whatever class you want, you sign up for it. We're still remaining. What this is a state, basically a mandate of, you can't just here's your test, demonstrate that you can now pass or no pass into an accelerated class. And even with the robust system, any parent can still say, I want to go into an accelerated class. And we say, and here you go.
So the structures are still there.
We tell them, we don't think your student's ready, we don't recommend it, but
engage in a waiver process. Yeah.
But that isn't.
And no policy is going to change that.
We don't restrict access.
Yeah.
How often would you say that happens?
I can't actually
Very.
being my, yeah. I think we definitely follow up with you and let you know.
Give you exact numbers.
I think one of the greatest challenges is from an equity and systemic discrimination and racist perspective that we're trying to remove barriers and access as opposed to put things in place. And the language demonstrated readiness, it's not that we don't want kids to be ready. It's that there's so much inherent bias that could be interpreted with a phrase like demonstrated readiness, depending on the circumstance. And so our process is meant to remove that bias as much as possible and really focus on objective measures to assess and give every kid an equal opportunity to access advanced math.
Thank you. I know
Really
that's
appreciate
something
that.
that Hillary and I worked on years ago. And so it's great to see that. And I know as a result of kids going to Miramonte and being accelerated and the highest and missing out on those opportunities here. So appreciate that. That context is very important. So thank you. This item is for action. Is there any more discussion? Okay. May I have a motion, please?
This is Katie. I move that we approve board policy BP 6142.92 mathematics instruction.
This is Hillary, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Thank you. All right, moving on to communications and announcements, OEA and CSEA.
We don't have CSCA here, but Mr. Shannon.
Hi, Charles Shannon, President of Orinda Education Association. It's a pleasure to be here tonight. This message is very dear to me. My grandmother and my aunt were both teachers, and so there's a long legacy in my family. So if I get emotional, it's because I'm on the shoulders of great women who made me who I am today, and to do the same for students that are in my care. This Women's Histories Month, let's celebrate the incredible strength and resilience of the women who enrich our schools and communities. We see their dedication and the tireless efforts of our teachers, the unwavering support of our staff, and the balanced potential of our students. We recognize the profound impact they have in shaping not only the present, but the future with their unique perspectives and unwavering commitment to excellence. Let us take this opportunity to acknowledge the positive change they inspire daily, and to reaffirm our commitment to creating an environment where their contributions are not only valued, but amplified, ensuring that every woman feels empowered to thrive and lead. Imagine my grandmother, a young woman in the 1930s and 40s, stepping into a one-room schoolhouse nestled in rural Pennsylvania. Her classroom wasn't filled with the resources we take for granted today. It was a space forged with sheer determination, a blackboard, and an unwavering belief in the power of education. She stoked the coal stove, taught children of varying ages simultaneously, and navigated the challenges of a world where women are often relegated to the margins. Yet within those four walls, she cultivated a world of knowledge, instilling a love of learning in generations. She did this not only with the support systems we now understand are crucial, but with an inner strength that defied the limitations of her time. Her story isn't just about a woman teaching, it's a testament to the quiet revolution waged by women like her, who, despite societal constraints, lit the path for progress, one lesson, one student, one day at a time. From the one-room schoolhouse of my grandmother's era to the dynamic classrooms of today, the thread of female dedication and innovation runs unbroken. These stories, both past and present, remind us that Women's History Month is not only simply a retrospective, but a call to action. We must honor the legacy of those who paved the way by continuing to dismantle barriers and create equitable opportunities for all women. Let's continue to build a future where every student and educator, regardless of gender, experiences true equity and justice, ensuring that the quiet revolutions of the past blossom into the vibrant and just reality of tomorrow. Just a little anecdote. My grandmother she went around the country giving speeches about her experience. My mother and her sister and brother had to be raised by their grandparents on the farm because in her time, she was not allowed to have children. She couldn't be married. There were such strict guidelines on what she could do just to fulfill her legacy of making change in the world. She wanted to leave her mark. And she did. She was incredible. And my aunt was so inspired, she became a teacher, and it continues on. So I'm proud to be here, share that legacy with all of you. It's very emotional because my grandma was very special to me. And I just feel that we owe so much to the women in our lives. They're such a major part of the upbringing of our kids and the education of our children. We've all benefited. And for that, thank you, all of you.
Thank you, Charles.
Thank you, Charles. Do we have cabinet updates?
I don't, Cabinet has done a lot of updates tonight.
Board updates, Benita?
Last week, I was able to join Hillary and Aida on the Delray site visit, which is nice. So that concluded all the school sites that I got to visit since I hadn't done that before. We had a very productive equity meeting last week. I heard it was a lot more productive than previous meetings, so that was great. And then in a couple of weeks, I'll be an interviewer for the Sleepy Steam Expo, which is happening Thursday, March 27th.
I'll just keep it brief. I'll add, I was at the equity meeting with Vanita, and then we had our special ed committee meeting as well. I don't know, it's been busy. I've had some personal traveling as well, so kind of balancing all of it.
Yeah, and I'm sort of more I've had other travel and other such lately, so I was to add, but we'll sort of go to my next one.
Similar, I was at a special ed committee meeting. I actually went back today. It has been a lot packed month. There was a budget committee meeting in there too.
Yes.
I went to OIS to visit with, we didn't join that one. Hillary and I did a board coffee. Tomorrow morning I'll be at the mayor's meeting. And was able to join the 2x2 last month as well. And I will be at coordinating council later this month. That's it.
And I as well was at the 2x2. I attended a parents club meeting at Glorietta, which was super fun last week. And I attended the OIS play, Freaky Friday, which was fabulous. It was so just wonderfully talented students. So, and thank you to Miramonte for allowing us to, have the play in their theaters. It was wonderful. Yeah. And that's it. Lots of meetings coming up. And my last MIG course, yay. This week.
Great, congratulations on that.
Thank you. Okay, all right. And so we have our consent calendar, items 12A through T. There a request, is there a motion? Sorry.
This is Hillary. I move that we approve the consent calendar.
It's Katie, I second.
All in favor?
Aye.
All right, and then we bring ourselves to future agenda items.
We put all the meetings in here. So it's actually very busy because we have a lot of recognitions and several agendized items. So a lot to look through here. Yep.
Yes, any added,
I guess just if we're going to bring the cell phone policy back for approval, it's the only one that's not.
Yeah, well, our original thought was to actually put that with the rest of the policies unless the board wants to put that as a.
Fine.
Is that okay?
That's fine with me. I can't speak for the rest of the board.
Yeah. Any other items you wish to add to the list? No. All right. Thank you. And with that, we come to meeting adjournment.
Hillary, I move that we adjourn.
All in favor?
Aye.
Thank you.
Meeting adjourned. Thank you, everyone.